that time. I didn't know it wasn't no audio. Can you hear it? You don't hear no audio? I don't know why. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Can you guys hear me? I think we're having some issues with the audio. You guys, please let me know if you're able to hear me okay. Chat, let me know if you're able to hear me okay so we can get started. Maybe it was just the music. The show said, you know what, we just want to get to the good stuff. We want to talk to our guests today. They didn't have time for all the extra stuff. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Fresh Perspective. I appreciate each and every one of you that are tuned in this Sunday afternoon. I got a show in store for you. As you know, Lady Fresh has been wanting to go on the journey of talking about different awarenesses each month, starting with January. Let me go ahead and turn my camera on here. I'm going to take this banner down so you guys can see my beautiful face. Hello. Hey, guys. So starting in January, I wanted to start doing some awareness episodes for you guys. And so we're going to do a thyroid disease awareness episode today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mrs. A.P. Young here. She's going to talk to us today about thyroid disease and what it can mean for your health. We don't know enough. There's so many different conditions out there that stem from the thyroid, and most people don't even know that they have a thyroid. So we're going to go ahead and dive deep into some of this stuff. We have our guest backstage. I'm not going to delay the show any longer. I'm going to go ahead and bring her up right after I acknowledge my chat. Shout out to everybody that has pulled up so far. I seen that Lady Snoop stopped by earlier in the day. Salute to you. Foxy Moon stopped by earlier in the day. Salute to you, sis. J-Town, salute. Strong Back Love featuring Coach Al. I do understand it's the playoffs. I appreciate you just turning on the tune-in switch. Anyway, make sure you hit that like before you leave to go watch that game now. So shout out to you, BDB 3.0. Big Lil Bro, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. As you guys know, January is also my birth month. I just celebrated my birthday on Wednesday. Behind the Bar threw me an epic birthday party on YouTube on Behind the Bar 3.0. If you didn't get a chance to watch that episode, I will be premiering it sometime this week so that you guys can see it. It was amazing. He pulled out all the bells and whistles. Family, friends, other content creators wished me a happy birthday. I got my mini mix on between him and Buddy Lee. They had me in tears, you guys. I had spent all that money on that makeup and I was crying. But again, BDB, thank you so much. That was a wonderful redemption party. You will never hear me speak of the year before his birthday ever again. Thank you so much. And thank you to my husband, Fresh Breezy, for helping him pull that off. Lotus Flower Bomb in the building. Honda Mommy, salute. And also E, salute to you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my guests. You know, I wanted to do the show and I wanted to talk about thyroid disease because I feel like it is not talked about enough. And so I did a deep search to try to find someone that I thought could shed some light on the topic and that could also be relatable to a lot of people that watch the show. And so during my search, I came across a profile under the name AP Blogs. And when I looked further into her profile, I was blown away by her story. I was blown away by, you know, just how transparent she has been, how much information she has. And I just reached out to her and she agreed to do the show. And so just really quickly, I'm just going to show you a clip of something that I watched on IG that actually made me want to reach out to her, get her story and see what her journey was all about. And so here is a video from her Instagram. You guys check this out.
Some of the symptoms that I experienced was excessive fatigue. It did not matter how much sleep I got. I was always tired. My hair started to fall out of my brows, out of my lashes, out of my hair. I realized that the hair on my legs wasn't growing anymore. If you're a woman and you're Black, you're definitely going to have a hard time getting doctors to listen. But put being fat on top of all of that, they're pretty much going to tell you all of your problems are related to you being fat. I had symptoms probably from the time I was 11, but didn't get diagnosed until I was 32. Thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland in the center of your neck, kind of sits in front of your vocal cords. It controls temperature, your metabolism. Your body has decided that your thyroid does not belong there, meaning that it prevents it from being able to do what it needs to do. I have something called hypothyroidism, which is underactive thyroid. They removed it. It damaged my vocal cords permanently. So where I was able to sing before, I don't sing anymore.
I was around 10 years old when I was...
Hey guys, it is your girl AP, and it is January, which means it is Thyroid Awareness. You've probably heard the word thyroid a million times at this point, especially if you're on the internet. But do you really know what the thyroid is and what it does? If you don't, have no fear, I'm going to give you guys some facts about the thyroid today. The thyroid is an endocrine system gland, and it is a butterfly-shaped gland that sits in the front of your vocal cords. This small and conspicuous gland is actually the powerhouse to the body and is responsible for how well your body functions. Let me explain. The hypothalamus gland in the brain sends out a TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, and that triggers the pituitary gland to encourage the thyroid to produce T4 and T3, and those are the thyroid hormones. So what are some things that the thyroid controls? Here are a few. Breathing, heart rate, central and peripheral nervous system, body weight, muscle strength, menstrual cycle, body temperature, cholesterol levels, and it even impacts the insulin production in the pancreas. When the thyroid is functioning optimally in your body, things should be flowing very smoothly. But when it's not, here are some ways to know how. Increased heart rate, low blood pressure, high blood pressure, excessive sweating, not sweating enough, excessive weight gain or excessive weight loss, dryness in the eyes, dryness of the skin, hair loss, extreme aversion to the cold, extreme aversion to heat, an irregular menstrual cycle, sleeping too much, feeling excessively fatigued or not sleeping enough, or experiencing insomnia, as well as anxiety and increased heart palpitation. Another sign of issues with the thyroid is when a goiter grows, and a goiter will be when your thyroid becomes enlarged and noticeable in the front of your neck. Don't be afraid to ask your doctors to test your labs at a regular physical or a checkup and ask them to run a thyroid panel. For more information on the thyroid during Thyroid Awareness Month, be sure to follow me. And of course, like, share, and comment this information. See you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Miss AP Young to the Fresh. Hey, I'm sorry. Let me get myself back up on the screen. Hey,
Hey,
hey, girl.
beautiful.
Hey.
Hey. Thank you for having me. I
Oh,
appreciate
thank you
it.
so much for agreeing to do the show.
For sure.
You know, like I told you behind the scenes, girl, I came across your profile and I was blown away with what you had to say, what you've overcome, and the way you were able to break it down for us to understand. And so I said, I need her to come on my show and break it down for us to
Yeah.
understand. So let's dive, right into it. Tell us a little bit, about yourself, what you do, and some of your background and how you got into, being a content creator and blogging on social media.
Absolutely. Well, my name is AP. My government is Alicia. I am 37. I'll be 38 in a couple months. But yeah, I'll be 38
Girl,
this year.
stop! I just turned 42. Stop it.
Pause, rewind. Let me get the skincare routine details, sis, because you look like my daughter. You look like my daughter. I have a 20-year-old daughter. Like, no lie, you
Me
have
too.
such a
Look, me
baby
too.
face.
Me too.
Child, we need to talk.
Girl, I'll be in Atlanta in a
um,
couple weeks.
yes, let's connect because I need your skincare routine. But yes, I am married, mama of three. I have a 20-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 6-year-old. I'm a paralegal by day. I am a blogger 24/7, and but a patient and healthcare advocate all day
Mm,
long in every facet of my life because I've been forced to do that. And while I got forced into it because of my own circumstances, I'm more than happy to bear that torch because I think it's really important, especially for Black people, especially for people who reside in marginalized bodies, whether you are fat, Black, or a woman. We're going to get, unfortunately, we get the least respect in the healthcare system. So whatever I can do, I'm going to do it to make sure you guys have the tools needed to advocate for yourself. I've been a blogger for 17 years now. 17 years. Yeah, I started blogging on MySpace in 2006. Yeah, that's how old I am,
MySpace.
y'all. Girl, I was coding like it was nobody's business. I had rainfalls and music all
Ooh.
on my page. I started blogging back then, though, mostly poetry, sharing like relationship stuff, and as time progressed, I moved my platform over to, I think it was like Blogspot was like my first blog space. But I started blogging about mental health, to be honest. I was going through a lot with depression and anxiety. Of course, at the time, I didn't know that that was linked to my thyroid. That gets crazy. Um, but I started blogging then. And in 2014, I decided to buy my domain name, apyoungblog.com, WordPress, and just start. I used to have like all these different separate blogs for different stuff, like, oh, I'll do fashion over here. Oh, I'll do health over here. I'll talk about mommyhood over here. But then I was like, why do I need all these separate blogs when these are all facets of me? I'm multifaceted. Therefore, we're going to just merge it all into one place. And so that's what I did. So in 2014, for the last 9 years, I've been running apyoungblog.com. Um, and I linked my Instagram page in 2017. I had no idea that blogging and Instagram went hand in hand. And now they call them influencers because
Yes.
most of them, I think, don't blog or don't write, but I'm a writer through and through. So I will never claim that influencer title. But being in that blogging space opened doors for me to network, go to events, have partnerships with different brands. So I'm very grateful and very, I express so much gratitude for the opportunities I've had that blogging has brought me. But this is what I do now, 100% full time. I also own a beauty brand, AP Young Beauty Collection, which can be shopped at apyoungbeauty.com. I got my hands in a lot of things.
Girl,
Got
you
my hands in
sound
a lot
like
of
me.
things.
I like it. I'm gonna have to put that website up there,
Yeah.
so that they'll be able to go shop those beauty products. And also, what else can we find on your website?
So I have it broken down by like mental health, fashion, health and wellness, just in general, weight loss surgery, because I went through that and shared it openly. I have two children who are on the spectrum. And I
Mhm.
have a son who has Tourette's. So we share all facets of health, from the physical to the mental to the behavioral health. And my husband has even done a few guest spots on the blog where we've talked about marriage. We've been together for 18 years. This year we'll be married for 14. So we share our experiences together of growing up together, because I was about 20 when I met my husband. So a little bit of everything. And I do like to have guest writers come in and share their expertise, and have people come share their stories. I also do lives on Instagram Health Talks where we chat with people about different avenues of health, because while I have a lot of chronic illnesses, there are so many more out there, and there are so many more people who are well versed, and I want to give them a voice too, just in the same way you're doing with your podcast.
Yes, I'm so grateful to you for seizing this opportunity to share so much of what you know. And I know you mentioned that you've had the weight loss surgery and you've
Yeah,
had a lot of different chronic illnesses. So
yeah.
today we're talking about thyroid disease, but I want to make sure we get a chance to discuss your journey overall. Um,
Okay.
and you and I discussed the fact that the thyroid has so much functionality
Yeah,
for the body. And so,
yeah.
can you tell everyone, because I think sometimes people get confused when they hear thyroid, they think fibroid.
Ah, yeah.
Right.
That's a
So,
common one. Yeah.
everyone has a thyroid. Uh,
Everyone.
I want you to tell us first what a thyroid is and what the functions are, what it controls in the body.
Everything. So the thyroid, like the video said, is like a butterfly shaped gland in the front of your neck. In men, it can be more pronounced. Um, it's actually their Adam's apple. A lot of people don't know that, but that's what they like. It sits right there in front of their Adam's apple. But if you have a healthy, functional thyroid, you should not even know it's there. You shouldn't see it. And so they call it the powerhouse of the body, but it's a part of the endocrine system. So the pancreas, liver, gallbladder, and thyroid. I feel like I'm missing something, but it essentially runs everything, like your body temperature, your central peripheral nervous system, muscle mass, like how much muscle mass you have, bone density, cholesterol, heart rate, breathing, which is why a lot of people who have sleep apnea actually have thyroid disease and don't know. The thyroid needs to basically be completely 100% balanced in order for things to be running smoothly. And a lot of times, when it's not running smoothly, it will present as other things, which is why it takes so long sometimes to get diagnosed, because doctors are looking everywhere but at the culprit. So I mentioned that, excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all, I got COVID. So my throat be a little dry and I don't want to be hacking.
Yes, you guys. She has COVID, and I offered. I was like, you know what? If we need to reschedule, she's like, girl, I can't sit around and not do nothing.
Mm-mm-mm.
And so she's here with us anyway, and she's looking beautiful as ever. So I mean, you talk about dedication. This woman
I'm
said
just
she's
stubborn.
still gonna do it anyway. So I hope you
Yeah,
feel better.
I thank you. Um, but basically, it even controls like your moods. So I told you guys I was having really bad bouts of depression. It's because my thyroid was imbalanced and we just didn't know yet. Um, I started dealing with depression and anxiety when I was about 9 years old. Um, and that's fairly young for a child to be depressed. But
Mhm.
nobody was kind of paying attention to the other signs and symptoms. By the time I was 11, my weight started to go up. They wanted to put me on a diet. Um, They had me exercising, even though my mom was like, she really doesn't eat all crazy. And what ended up happening was that led to me having an eating disorder, because I was being restricted in so much in how I was eating that I started binge eating. And then, like, starving myself for weeks at a time. And then that was making the depression worse. Now, what we didn't know was back then I was going through stages of hyperthyroidism when your thyroid was overactive. So I would like lose all this weight out the blue. No dietary changes, no nothing. I would gain 50 pounds, and then 6 to 7 months later, I would lose 50 pounds. And this is what was happening from the time I was 11 well into adulthood when I was about 32. For years, they could not figure it out. But nobody was also looking for it either. They just kept saying, like, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. If you crash diet, if you're doing any of these things, it's going to ruin your metabolism. And nobody talks about that. And it was just furthering the damage to my thyroid. When I got old enough to become childbearing age, I had my first child at 18. I lost all this weight after I had her. And of course, we assumed just, being 18, being a mom, you know, postpartum depression, you go through those things, your body's changing. But I kept losing when I wasn't doing anything differently. Then I would gain, lose, gain, lose, gain. We were still doing this song and dance, but I also experienced in my lifetime 8 miscarriages. And each and every time it was at different stages. Um, my most recent one had been in 2014, and I was about 4.5 months along, 5 months when I had to deliver. And I was devastated, but I was also at my highest weight at that point, which was about 400 and something pounds. And they told me that all of my miscarriages were weight related. I was devastated. I was devastated because I thought that I had killed my own babies by being fat. For years, I felt this way. I was told I was not going to be able to have any more kids. A year later, I got pregnant with my youngest child. Surprise. And in 2016, I gave birth to my youngest son. I was about 420 pounds, 24 pounds by the time I had him. I lost like 45 pounds after giving birth out the blue. And then all of a sudden, one day, I felt like I had something stuck in my throat. You ever swallow like a vitamin the wrong way or eat a
Mhm.
piece of food and it gets stuck there? You're like swallowing and swallowing won't go away. Well, that's what I started feeling like. So then a couple of days passed. I'm starting to feel like it's there and it's getting on my nerves. So I got my husband all up in my throat, like, look in here. Like, make sure you ain't leave no babies in there. Like, make sure just check, just check. Make sure, like, make sure there's nothing in there. Nothing. We couldn't see it. But then I had been diagnosed with sleep apnea, back it up in 2010. So of course they're talking to me about weight. They're like, Mrs. Young, you are getting bigger. And I was. I had gone from losing 45 pounds to gaining 45 in about 2 months. And my neck was getting progressively bigger. My body was aching in a way it had never hurt before. During this time, I also found out I had arthritis in my hip. Um, my joints were hurting, my hands were hurting. I was super fatigued all the time. I was anemic. I mean, things were just going south. Brows falling out, lashes falling out. I had a little bald spot that has never come back. I used to have locks. I cut them off because I couldn't manage the hair loss. Um, Finally, you could see my neck visibly getting bigger. And it wasn't just like, even though I had a doctor tell me, oh, it's just fat deposits from you gaining weight. Because at this point, I was about 465 pounds. Finally, my neck got big enough that a friend, I was at her house, her daughter was a nurse. Her daughter, I had done all the Googling in the world, and I was already stumbling upon thyroid disease. Like, this is what kept coming up for me. I just said, hey, would you mind taking a look at my neck? Because I didn't know what I was looking at or what I was feeling for. And she was a nurse. She felt my neck, and she stopped, and she said, I don't want to touch it anymore, but I think you have a goiter. And a goiter is an inflamed and enlarged thyroid. And she said, if you press on it, you could be releasing hormone into the system that you don't need to be releasing. You need to go see an endocrinologist immediately. So I'm like, all right. In the meantime, I'm having all these chest pains. I'm waking up in the middle of the night with heart palpitations. I'm feeling like I'm going to die every day. Like, I know that sounds dramatic, but
Mhm.
I felt like I was on my way out. Finally, a doctor wrote a referral for me to go get an ultrasound and to go see an endocrinologist. They did the ultrasound, definitely had a goiter. And in the goiter, there was something called complex nodules. And nodules are cystic or solid. Mine were complex because they were both. And in that case, they were concerned about cancer of the thyroid. So they're like, well, let's Let's biopsy it. Negative for cancer, but when they ran my panel, the interesting thing was all my thyroid labs were normal.
Mm.
Higher in the range of labs, but normal, right? But you could see it was physically presenting. I was physically presenting with symptoms, and they're like, oh, it's not that serious. I feel like I'm dying. I feel like it's that serious, y'all. So they're like, okay, well, they tested me for something called TPO antibodies. TPO antibodies is the antibody the body produces when you have thyroid autoimmune disease. And we learned I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is the immune disease where your body just decides to attack the thyroid. And as I started doing my research, because the endocrinologist still wasn't really giving me the most information, is how I learned like what I eat, what I'm consuming, food wise, water wise, all these things, environmental was affecting my thyroid. I kept choking in the middle of the night to the point where they were like, we're just going to take this out. We're going to take it out. It should be a 45-minute procedure. You'll be fine. Nobody's telling me how serious like it's going to be to have my thyroid removed. They're just kind of like, you're going to be on hormone replacement for the rest of your life. And I'm like, okay, will this, will it stop the choking? And they're like, yeah, you'll be fine. 2 hours into my surgery, the surgeon comes out to tell my husband, we're really glad that she came in because she would be dead. And they were still operating on me at this point. They said my thyroid had gotten so large, it was 5 times the size it was supposed to be. It
Wow.
had wrapped around the esophagus and the trachea and was growing into the chest, which is why I was choking at night, which is why every time I was laying down, I couldn't breathe. Um, which is why my neck had swollen up the way that it did. Goiters can grow, and there's no control over how it grows, how it decides to grow. Mine grew in a more rare way, but it was still growing, and they removed it. I did sustain some damage to the vocal cords, but ultimately that saved my life. However, the ride to get on the proper balance of medication, baby, it's not as simple as they tell you it is. They tend to prescribe something called levothyroxine, which is the thyroid replacement hormone. It's a synthetic replacement. However, if you have an autoimmune disease, your body is probably more sensitive to the fillers in the drugs than the actual drug. So, whatever formula they use to put the drug together can have an adverse effect on your body if you are sensitive to those things. So, nothing was getting fixed. Like I felt more awful than ever. My labs were all over the place. I was gaining weight rapidly. I went in at 465. 2 months later, I was 49. 5 months later, I was 500 pounds. Could not lose weight. And then on top of that, I had arthritis in my left hip. So my mobility was becoming more and more limited. So the ability to move, exercise, all of those things were like, hey, we can't even replace your hip because you're too large. So you're going to have to lose some weight. But if I don't have a functioning thyroid to help control my metabolism, I wasn't gonna lose no weight. It didn't matter what they said. So I was in this vicious cycle of trying to figure out how do I get the weight off so I can get my hip replaced so I can walk again. At the same time, stop feeling like trash. My face, me and my husband were just looking through video footage last night. My face would flare up when I was having these thyroid flares. Like skin would get puffy, discolored. My hands would swell up and start hurting for no reason. I mean, it was god awful. Finally, they switched the drug. They switched the drug to a synthetic pig hormone. That worked better, except all of a sudden, a hurricane occurred in Puerto Rico where it was manufactured, shut all that down. They were like, we're going to have to try
Mm.
you on something else. They tried me on another version that was going great until this company got bought out, changed the formula, and I started having allergic reaction like I was having the first time. I finally got on a medication called Tirosint, which is one of the best thyroid drugs because it has the least amount of fillers in it, but insurance doesn't cover it. So to this day, 3 years later, I'm paying out of pocket for my thyroid medication because I cannot take what insurance will cover.
Of
And
course.
that's just the nasty business of big pharma.
Big pharma.
But I don't have a choice because otherwise I'll be dead. And that's the reality. If you don't treat your thyroid, you will drop dead because it affects all these other facets of your health, your mental health, all of that. My cholesterol had started to become heightened. I wasn't insulin resistant quite yet, but it can also lead to diabetes. I didn't have diabetes. My A1C was always normal, but I started to experience something called dawn phenomenon, which is when you wake up in the morning and your blood sugar is like super high, and mine was super high. So we started doing things like sea moss and putting it in my smoothies and shakes, and I started to become so health conscious about how I was eating, removing certain things from my diet, finding out what things triggered inflammation in me and what things didn't. I mean, it was a process. It took about a year to two to really master how to eat for my body and my condition. Even with all of that, I wasn't able to lose a significant amount of weight, um, because my body had now become so conditioned to being so large that it was resistant to weight loss. I went through the process of starting weight loss surgery. The hospital wanted me to get to 400 pounds. I could not get smaller than 440, and they wouldn't do my surgery. I finally found a surgeon who would do my surgery. His name was Dr. Proctor. He's actually the doctor from Too Large and 1,000 Pound Sisters. He met with me. He was willing to take on my case. He looked at my history thoroughly. And the one thing I will always love about Dr. Proctor forever was him looking at my thyroid history and saying, let's talk about this, and really making sure I understood how the thyroid had impacted my metabolism so much, which was preventing me from being able to lose weight despite my efforts, despite what I did, how I ate, how much I exercised. Because believe it or not, I exercised. Even with limited mobility, I was getting on a bike day, every day. Eating right, eating healthy. My lab work was looking great. My cholesterol was down, my sugar was great, but my body was resistant to losing. He did that surgery for me, and it saved my life a second time. Um, and then I was able to move on to have hip replacement and all of that. But the thing that I learned about thyroid disease is it can come with its own form of arthritis. So even though I had a congenital birth defect in my hip, which caused hip dysplasia, and that led to arthritis, the arthritis in my hands, my shoulder, like right now, I have a lump here, it's osteochondroma, linked to having thyroid disease that had gone untreated for years. Nobody ever talks about it because they just kind of think, oh, we'll throw some pills at it and you'll be fine. They don't talk about the
Mhm.
ramifications, the damage later on, and that it shouldn't have taken me until I was 32 to get a diagnosis when I had symptoms from the time I was 9. It's been a wild ride. It's been a wild and intense ride this whole time.
Oh, it sounds like it. So, do you believe you had thyroid disease that young?
Oh,
From
absolutely. It was, and there's in that video you show with the young lady, she was about 11 or 13 when she got diagnosed. I think that's how she said.
Mhm.
When you're not black, they hear you loud and
Absolutely,
clear.
loud and clear.
And the one thing I will say is my mom, she didn't have the knowledge, I would say, to know how to advocate because you trust the doctor. You're taught that doctors are trustworthy. I don't think I learned about medical bias and racism until I was into my early 30s when I realized, looking back at my healthcare journey, like, oh, snap. I joined support groups with white women, and straight up, these white women were like, listen, I'm going to tell you to ask for this drug because they're not going to tell you about it. These are other white women
Mhm.
telling me, ask for, like, I would have never known to ask for Tiracin had a white woman not told me. And she said, I don't know why they do this. She knows why, but she wasn't going to say it. She's like, but please ask them for this med. Every step of the way, if it were not for white allies in those spaces who understood
Mhm.
that I was being treated differently because of my color, because of my size, I don't know that I would have made it as far as I did in getting the proper treatment. And that's the reality. Even down to my birthing story, like with my first child, the way I was treated because I was a teenager, I was black and I was overweight, the way they handled me, the way they talked to me, the way
Mhm.
they disregarded, the way I had to like beg for testing for things that they were just handing out all willy-nilly to people was insanity. Absolute insanity. And I feel like as a child, they were dismissing my experience because I was a child. And it's just kind of like, oh, kids go through things. Tell her to stop eating. Everything was telling her to stop eating. I had my
Everything's
first
about the
Slim
weight.
Fast by the time I was 10. Slim Fast, 10. Jenny Craig, 12. You know what I mean? Like, this was what my childhood looked like. You know, I don't know if you remember Richard Simmons. Okay. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah,
remember
girl.
Jane
No,
Fonda.
I
Okay.
Jane
Me,
Fonda workout.
listen, taking them from my grandma's house, trying to trying to work it out. And the thing about it, I was such an active kid. I was on the track team. I did hurdles. I did shot put, and it wasn't enough for the doctors to listen. My mom's telling them she don't even really eat like that, and they weren't listening. Having 8 miscarriages was so traumatizing.
I can
And
imagine.
every time, I signed off, they said, can we take the fetus? Can we take the egg? Can we test it? They would never be able to find anything genetically wrong with the baby. And then instead they said, it's your weight. We find this commonly in weight. Turns out thyroid affects progesterone production, and you need a good amount of progesterone in order to have a healthy pregnancy. If you don't, your pregnancy won't sustain. Not only that, I could have had progesterone suppositories had anybody bothered to test me for thyroid disease. They could have done things to help preemptively. And a mom's thyroid is responsible for producing the baby's thyroid hormone
Mhm.
throughout the entire pregnancy. So I think essentially what happened was my son, my little soldier, he was determined to get here. And my body was able to do what it needed to do to sustain that pregnancy. He was a full term baby. He came 3 days before his due date, scheduled C-section. But I think having him, my thyroid gave out after that. It was just like, it's had enough. And of course it did. For years, it had been doing this up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, that pregnancy just took it out all the way and just, it could not function anymore after having him. But had somebody listened, had somebody paid attention to the signs and symptoms, instead of looking at everything separately, instead of saying, oh, you need to lose weight or you need to do this, nobody was looking at the collective of symptoms. They were treating my depression. Girl, I was in a psych ward at some point because I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks straight. Turns out you can't treat anxiety and depression because that's just treating the symptoms if the culprit is actually the
It's
thyroid.
right, right.
So for years, I'm experiencing these mood swings and all, feeling crazy and going through some horrific bouts of depression that caused me to come out of work. I came out of work in 2019. I was on disability because by that point I was limited mobility. My depression was so bad, I couldn't function. And by that point, my thyroid was already out, but now we were trying to salvage, my health, and we were trying to figure out what was the next step. I felt so blindsided and I was so angry and so bitter with the healthcare system at that point. Like, I didn't even realize that I had medical trauma. Like, I would be going to the doctors and like my shoulders would be tense, my fists would be ready. I'd be ready to go to war. And now understanding like you're reacting this way because you've been getting played out by your doctors for
For
years.
decades. Yep, right.
They got me down in my medical record as being I forgot what was the term, above average something patient, which is code for difficult patient. I had the opportunity to speak at Wayne State University with students against medical racism to share my birthing story with them and how it was, they asked me to talk to the future medical leaders of tomorrow. And I had students telling me as of 2020, this was during the pandemic's beginning, I had students telling me that in their books, they are still learning that white and black people feel pain differently. This is 2020. And this is medical students telling me that this is what they're still teaching in their books, in their textbooks. And I was blown away by that. And I'm just like, is this where we're at? Is this where we're at with medical in 2020? And it's no better in 2023. My doctors, when they see me come in, they don't even argue with me no more. They just be like, what do you need, Mrs. Young? Because whatever it is, you're going to give it to me. Because now I know the legal jargon to use. Now I know what to say. And if a doctor ever tells you, oh, we don't feel like that's necessary, tell them, I want you to document in my chart that you are refusing me this service. Because your medical chart is a legal document and they know it. And once it goes in the chart, they cannot take it out. If your doctor ever refuses a test, make sure you use that language because then they'll give it to you because they want to cover their own behind. When in reality, they should be doing it in the first place to cover their behind anyway.
Right.
It the fact that you have to know these things to get actual care is insanity to me. But I'd rather be seen as a difficult and challenging patient who is still alive.
I was gonna say it.
And I've been turned down by specialists and people who didn't want to see me because they've seen my history and they're like, "Oh, she one of those." Yes, I am. And I've had doctors. It's crazy. I met with ophthalmologist, not a neuro ophthalmologist, not so long ago. You had asked me about the eye age. And I had to go see them because I was having problems with my eyes. And as I'm talking to the ophthalmologist, she took her glasses off and she said, "I'm just going to ask you, do you have a medical background?" And I said, "Not beyond being a CNA. When I was younger, I did go to school for a medical assistant." And she's like, she's an Indian woman. And she said, "I'm so sorry." She's like, "Because the only way a patient is this well versed and understands the language I'm using so fluently is because you've had to fight for yourself." This is a doctor who understood. The only reason you know this much that I like, she wasn't having to explain anything to me because I understood. Girl, I read so much
Mhm.
medical. Like she was like, "That's insanity that you're not a medical student, but you understand what I'm saying to you because that means you've been having to do your own research." And she said, "I am sorry." Totally random. Had never met this woman before. My first time meeting her, and she hadn't done anything wrong. But her experience, even as a brown doctor, she understood the only reason you know this much is because of the experience you've had in this healthcare system. She
Mhm.
said, "That is the only time I see patients who don't bat an eye when I use these big words. You're not even batting an eye." "No, I'm not, because whatever you tell me, I've already looked it up."
Looked it up. And they hate when you do that. You know, they always tell you stay away from
Say
Google,
from
don't
Google.
stuff.
Google saved my
But
life. Nope.
I've found that as black and brown people, women especially in the healthcare system, there is a lot of racism. There is a
Yeah.
lot of people who doctors who do not listen to us. I just did
No.
a Zoom podcast earlier today where we talked about, you know, birthing experiences, and I
Mm,
shared my journey with my daughter and you know, delivering her prematurely. I was fortunate enough to not run into that issue then. I had doctors that were bending over backwards to move heaven and earth, you
mm.
know, to
That's a blessing.
right. But I've also seen it on the other end where the story doesn't end well because the doctor didn't listen. It's so important to have a doctor that will be an advocate for you, even to insurance companies, because
Yes.
they don't want to pay for the medications that you need. I did an episode with a gentleman who is an insurance broker, and he even
Mm.
was like a huge advocate for us because he was like, okay, we're gonna find the right plan that covers the right drugs, and then there's the brand names, and then the, you know, it's
Oh,
finding out what you can get and making sure you get the right and proper coverage. Because see, now they can't use insurance as an excuse. It's coming across as straight racism now.
oh yeah.
It's
And
straight
people
racism.
being vocal. Because now you got social media, right? Social media is a whole different animal than
Oh
when we
yeah.
were growing up.
Hmm.
It was just a whole different animal, right? Like, and the way it's being used, wow, there are many negative things about social media for sure.
Absolutely.
I will never be mad about the knowledge when it's accurate, because we know there's a lot of inaccuracies out there, but I will never
Hmm.
be mad about the access to information it's giving people. Sometimes people aren't picking up books, but people who have podcasts, people who are willing to advocate and speak about their medical journeys, it's putting the information into their hands in a way that it was not available before. Now people are documenting and they're talking about and they're sharing. I think one of the biggest things in the Black community and Black culture, and I was talking to my mom about it because my mom is of mixed race and her upbringing was very different than mine. I present to the world as a Black woman and I look like a Black woman. My daddy Black, she's Black and some other things. My mom is a very fair skinned, light skinned woman, grew up in Bangor, Maine, and that's a whole nother story. In a family that does not necessarily look Black, if you get what I'm saying. So her experience was different. And as I'm telling my mom, as I'm advocating for her now, my mom just got diagnosed with something called Lewy body dementia. And me having to explain to her like why I go so hard and why I challenge everything, it didn't even dawn on her that she was experiencing medical racism because she sees the world through a different lens than I've had the experience of seeing it. And I'm like, hey, you're my mom. I'm not about to let anybody do anything to you, prescribe you anything. I'm challenging everything. I'm asking all the questions and I'm going to every doctor's appointment because I have to, because I know better. And that's because we've got people willing to talk about it. But within the Black
Hmm.
community itself, we've been taught to like be quiet, right? You don't talk about certain things. They're personal. You don't talk about it out loud. You don't, I can't even tell you how many times I've been told, you oversharing. You ain't got to talk about all that. Like I wrote a blog article
Wow.
on dysfunctional bleeding. What is dysfunctional bleeding? It's a made up thing, by the way. It's what doctors tell you when they don't know why you're bleeding half to death on your menstrual cycle. Really, it's when they're like, we can't figure out why. Now, it
And it's
turns
called
out
what? What they call it?
dysfunctional uterine bleeding. I was bleeding for 30 days at a time. You would have thought I was a whole gunshot victim. The first time it happened, I went to the ER because I couldn't stop bleeding. And later on down the line, we found out I had fibroids on top of everything, but I didn't understand that my thyroid not being present in the body was affecting my menstrual cycle. So I blogged about it. Men were like, we don't need to hear about that. Then why are you reading, bruh?
And don't, yeah, this ain't for you today.
This ain't for you. Endometrial. Oh, somebody just said endometriosis.
Mhm.
Have seen, I got the opportunity to meet so many people who talk about endometriosis. Like all of these things are linked. And here's the
Everything's
crazy
linked.
thing.
Yeah.
The symptoms of PCOS, I'm not sure if anybody here knows what that is.
Polycystic.
Ovarian syndrome.
Hmm.
The symptoms of PCOS in any type of thyroid disease overlap with each other. Because the crazy thing is with thyroid disease, you can have Graves, Hashimoto's, and those two can cause Graves can cause hyperthyroidism, Hashimoto's can cause hypothyroidism. But you don't have to have Graves or Hashimoto's to have
To have it.
hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. There's also different forms of thyroid cancer. All of those things can present with symptoms and overlap with PCOS symptoms, infertility, not being able to sustain a healthy pregnancy. All those things overlap. Both can come with insulin resistance, more risk for diabetes, chronic inflammation syndrome, metabolic inflammation syndrome. Like it's insane how much all these things are linked. But if we don't talk about them because, we're not supposed to talk about those things in public, like how we
Right.
gonna learn? How we gonna learn? It's
So I
insanity.
find so I'm trying to think back during physicals. I'm due for one in May. Is that a standard test that they do when you go for your physical? No. But you've just basically and so eloquently broke down everything that can be affected if the thyroid is not in good
Yeah.
balance, as you explained, working and functioning condition. Why is that, do you think it's not a part of the standard? If you're running, even just for a physical, but even if you come in and you're presenting all these different symptoms,
Mm.
these different signs, why do you think that's not high up on the list to check
Well,
by physicians?
a couple of reasons. Well, they will test for TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, but that's not enough. I'm gonna be completely honest. Because my TSH was normal for
Okay,
years
that's the one
until
you
they
said was
until they
normal.
took the thyroid out. That's when they saw it go haywire. But mine, so they give you a range. It's like 0.1 to 5 or to point 0.5. Mine used to sit right at the top of the higher end, which would indicate an underactive thyroid. But because it was within range, oh, you're normal. What they don't tell you is there is optimal and then there's functional. So what's functional and within range doesn't mean it's optimal for your body. And everybody's body is different.
Hmm.
So a point 0.5 on you may look completely different than it does on me. But if you're treating me as if I am everybody else, well, then you're not going to get the individual care you need. And they often don't test your T4 and T3 unless you ask them to. And they're definitely not going to look for TPO antibodies unless you ask them to. A lot of times insurance won't cover it. Depends on your insurance. But most doctors would rather say, well, let's look at weight loss. I know that sounds insane, but
I
that's
mean,
literally what they're going to do.
that is what they're going to do. Now, what
Because
if you're
because
someone smaller? What if you come in and you're
that is the only time.
that's the only time.
That is the only time they might decide, well, let's look at the other opportunities here. Because I'm gonna tell you right now. So I had my weight loss surgery in August of 2021. When I went in for surgery, I was about 447, somewhere in there. So in a little over a year, I lost 200 pounds. Um, and The difference between my doctor's visits now and my doctor's visits
Then.
from a year and some change ago,
Hmm.
wildly different, mad different, not the same. Okay. Um, and I recognize, and I'm still considered obese because I weigh 245.
Right.
I'm still, because I was just reading my chart the other day and it says patient presents obese. I chuckled because I'm like, whatever. Y'all can't say nothing that's going to hurt my feelings. I was 500 pounds. I know what obese looks like. This ain't it. Um, but even with me being 200 some pounds smaller, I still am considered obese. My BMI is like a 39, I think, and it should be 30.
It should be
So
30.
until I hit 30, I'm still, obese. But even with that, they treat me so differently than they do. Like when it came time to get diagnosed with IIH, which is the idiopathic intracranial hypertension. I know that's a mouthful, y'all. And it's when there's increased spinal fluid in the brain. Um, there was no talk of weight. They were like, all right, let's get her MRI, let's get her lumbar puncture, let's do all of the things we need to do to diagnose her.
Hmm.
And one of the things that they said to me though is, well, this is odd because we often don't see this in women unless they are like overweight. You've been losing weight. We would usually recommend weight loss, but we don't know what to tell you because you've already lost
You lost the
200
weight.
pounds. Yeah, but apparently it's something that they usually find in, it's very rare in men, usually in childbearing age women who are overweight. Now, what we've learned is the damage that I sustained to my retinas and stuff was probably when I was a higher weight. And with the weight loss, the symptoms I was having dissipated, but there was
Hmm.
still some residual damage and they had to check it out. But there's nothing we could do. If you have pressure headaches, you could take this medication, but there's nothing for you to do. There's no other options for this disease besides lose weight. And sometimes if the pressure is high enough, they will drain the fluid by a spinal tap. Sometimes they will place shunts in the brain and I mean, in the skull and more severe issues. So I started doing my own research. And started, reading up and learned that a lot of thyroid patients have IIH. They don't know that what the link is. They have no idea. They're still researching, they're still studying. I've actually been invited to do a couple of studies because they're like, we don't really have the answers, Sway. We just know this is who it presents in, and we find it in fat people, fat women. That's it. That's all they got for us. And I'm not even denying that there's a connection because when I presented with symptoms, I was at my highest weight. I just had a really dumb doctor at the time who decided to prescribe me sinus medication when I told her, I feel my heartbeat in my ear. It sounds insane. And she's like, okay. She had an ultrasound done of my carotid artery. When that was normal, she was like, well,
They just thought it was
shoulders.
tinnitus.
Yeah, yeah. They were just like, but I'm telling her, like, I feel like somebody's just like punching me in the back of my eyes. She never once was like, go get your eyes checked. I thought I had
Really?
20/20
You would
vision.
think
Oh,
that'd be
yeah.
the first thing they say.
Nope. I told her I felt like somebody was punching me in the back of my eyes. They prescribed me steroids and stuff for sinus because that's what it felt like. My head would feel, you ever get like water stuck in your ears and like,
Nah.
it felt like pressure. My only reason I even went to the eye doctor is because all my life I've been lied to. I thought I had 20/20 vision. The only reason I started going was when I was in school and my vision was getting blurry. And so I finally was like, the kids is going to get their eyes checked. Let me go get my eyes checked, right? And I'm thinking they about to just be like, oh, you're fine. First thing I learned was I do not have 20/20 vision. It's just that my right eye has been compensating for the left eye for so
Mm,
long. Um, that I didn't realize I was not a 20/20 vision person. Um, and so they're like, yeah, now that left eye is super weak. But when they were doing the imaging, they could see that I had papilledema, which is swelling of the retina. And that is what triggered them for me to go see neuro ophthalmology. And that's when the lady was like, hey, I think you have something called IIH. And she explained what it was and what it does to the body. And I was like, wow. And I had symptoms as early as 2016 when I was pregnant with my son. But did anybody say go get your eyes checked?
go get your eyes checked.
No. It's just like lose weight. Now, in this instance, they might have been right because after the weight loss surgery, the tinnitus in my ear went away. Um, I still have blurry vision, but that damage is permanent. There's nothing that can be done about that. I have to wear my glasses. But the fact that it took them this long, from 2016 to 2023, 2022, to realize that I had, increased pressure in the brain. I was like suffering for no reason. And like if I hadn't gotten that weight loss surgery, I don't know how much longer I would have gone before somebody finally was like, go check her out for IIH. It's insanity. It's insanity.
Wow. And you and I discussed briefly backstage about your well, I'm not gonna say your decision, but you basically needed to do the weight loss surgery,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we talked about how today the media can put such a negative spin on people who are of a certain weight
Oh
that
yeah.
they all just kind of sit in the house and
Yeah,
you
we
put
we
a
don't
really good
shower,
perspective on that, right?
hmm Yeah, things are sensationalized for television. Here's what I'll say. I used to watch My 600 Pound Life. So I'm not gonna lie, I was watching it because I wanted to see, can I relate to these people?
Mhm.
Because I was 500 pounds. Like, what room do I have to talk junk? Like, whatever. In some ways, I could relate in terms of the internal dialogue with oneself because no one ever intentionally gains that much weight. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care what fat activist is out here doing the work trying to. No, nobody ever purposely gets to 5 to 600 pounds. Nobody purposely gets to 400 pounds. Like, I don't care what you say. I think some of us are dealing with food addictions. Some of us are dealing with trauma in our lives, and we've used eating to self medicate. Some of us are dealing with, depression, behavioral issues. Some of us are dealing with thyroid disease, PCOS. You don't know. You
Just
don't know. But
something.
nobody ever intentionally tries to get larger in that way. But I think the thing that irritated me most, it was like, let's sensationalize. Now, if these people on my 600 pound life were eating all this food, I believe it. Because ain't no way you taping me eating all that food if I really don't eat like that. So
Right.
in my mind, I'm like, this is their lifestyle. But to me, that's such a small fragment of fat people. I have had the pleasure of knowing a lot of fat people and being a part of the fat community. I don't always agree with everything that happens in the fat community because I don't believe that being fat is a monolith. It's not the same experience for everyone. While we all
Mhm.
have commonalities, like your fat experience is going to be contingent upon environment, culture, where you're raised, socioeconomic status, race, gender, all of those things impact your fat experience. So I was never the type who just sat around eating. Like I was up and moving. I was out. I dated. I never had a problem getting a man. Um, yeah, I had my issues with men who only wanted to sleep with me because, they thought that was all I was worth. But I've been married for 14 years and with my man for 18. Like I've had kids, I've had jobs. My size sometimes definitely impacted how people viewed me. But it didn't mean it was true. I'm not lazy. Like I wasn't the type of person who didn't want to walk and didn't want to move. Before I hit that weight, when my hip really started to hurt and I couldn't move as much anymore, I lived in Philly for 10 years. So I used to hike it
I
everywhere. I
knew
was
it.
walking everywhere,
I
on
knew
train.
it.
Like yeah, like I was born and raised in Connecticut. I moved to Philly when I
Wow.
was 18 because Connecticut is just
I
yuck.
knew you sound Eastern and not Southern.
Yeah, no,
I was
no.
like, the more I listened to you, I was like, she doesn't sound like
Mm-mm. I'm
Georgia.
in this is my ninth year in Georgia, my ninth year. But yeah, I I probably say, dare I say, moving to Georgia is probably when I became a little less active because you drive everywhere down
Drive every
here.
freaking where, everywhere.
Um, MARTA is by far much cleaner than SEPTA's train system. However, we had more
Mhm.
accessibility in Philly. So I
Yeah.
wasn't driving around all crazy unless I was picking the kids up. Like, so my weight stayed at about probably in the 300s. I was probably about between 330 and 360 my entire adulthood in Philly. But I was active. And most people didn't even know I weighed that much. because I was active. Like I'll be at the gym. I was walking around like I wasn't out of breath. I was taking the stairs. There's stairs everywhere in Philly. Like this train, you getting on the train, you going up and down some stairs. You know what I mean? Like I was
Hmm.
moving. Me and my husband used to do date nights in the city. We wasn't driving. Like you're walking everywhere. So I was very, very active. So coming to Georgia was definitely like a culture shock. Cause you ain't got no corner stores, ain't no poppy stores, ain't no bodegas.
No, no
Like
bodegas, none of that.
you
Yeah,
you driving
you ain't
to the
got no
gas
car.
station. Yeah,
Mm,
and everything is 30 minutes away now. And as opposed to me, walking up the street to go, I probably ate way worse in Philly than I did down here. Like I became
yeah,
so
because you just walk right there.
and I'm like, so it was amazing. It was amazing to see the shift in the way my body reacted to things when I was probably way more health conscious down here than I was up north. But I was moving about so much more. So I think watching stuff like my 600-pound life, I'm like, they be capping. Cause what, like, not that they're capping. I don't want to deny anybody else's experience because I know it could be different. But I'm like, it's y'all. Everybody got somebody fat in their family. I don't care what nobody says. You got a fat mama, auntie, cousin, somebody, uncle, somewhere. You mean to tell me all your fat family members is just sitting around eating ho-hos and Twinkies and snack cakes and not showering? It's just melting into the couch. I don't be understanding that. Like that's the idea that people have about you when you're fat.
Television.
So when that's how the doctors treat you though. I'm from
Hmm.
New Haven, Connecticut. And your last name Murphy, that's crazy because that's my father's family's name. Um, yep, born and raised New Haven, Connecticut. It's wild in these streets. And so I'm just like, is this what they really think about fat people? But the doctors really think that. The first thing they ask you is, how do you eat? When you tell them how you eat, they don't believe you.
They don't believe you.
And they're like, come on, Mrs. Young. I'm like, I probably eat better than you, don't I? And they thought it was insanity. I had an OBGYN tell me, just starve yourself for a couple weeks so you could get to the weight you need to get to weight loss surgery.
What?
How you a whole medical professional
And tell me to starve
telling me
myself.
to starve, even though I have a history of disordered eating, which you never tell an ED patient.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say that probably wasn't what she was supposed to say.
no, it was a man, a black man,
Oh,
and that. Hey, you from Bridgeport? First of all my family from Bridgeport. That is insanity. My dad's family is from Bridgeport, and his last Murphy. I was born in St.
oh.
Vincent's Hospital, by the way. So this is crazy. I wonder if you
That
a
might make
cousin.
sense
I
too
was
until
just
we
like,
tell
let me go
you
ask
the
my
most
dad.
the majority of the people that watch my show come from the like Philly, New York, Chicago,
Crazy.
Connecticut area. Yeah, we have a lot of people up
I don't know his last name Murphy. Now he got me out here thinking.
there.
No, I kid you not. My grandmother Barbara Flowers. I mean, her maiden name was Murphy. All my dad's family is from Bridgeport. That's
You
wild.
never know.
Look, come on, cousin. Let me find out. Yeah, but it's just like if I hadn't had the type of mom who encouraged us to read, right? If I hadn't, and this is why I talk about social economic status, I would never say we grew up rich because we didn't. But the school system I was in afforded me to be able to go to a decent school.
Mhm.
So my curriculum growing up, I was fortunate to go to elementary, middle, and high school at schools that were academically challenging and reinforced critical thinking and reading comprehension and teaching us how to apply it practically in real life. And that's how my parents were. Like when you read something, make practical application of it. That is the only saving grace that I had was that I developed those skills really young as a
Mhm.
kid. My parents didn't play about that. It helped me learn how to read things, research things, challenge things, and make practical application. And I think that was what saved me. I think that is what saved my life is that I just won't accept anything as an answer. I'm going to do the work. If you tell me tomorrow, like, Alicia, you have such and such disease, I'm going to do all of the research till I
I'm like that
understand
too.
every facet of it, how it can be treated, all of my options. I'm asking all the questions and I'm joining every support group. And I'm going to go through the support groups and filter out the information that's useful and what's not. And I'm going to keep it pushing. You have to. being, unfortunately, I wish that I knew to do this earlier.
Right.
I wish that I knew anything about the thyroid, but who's thinking about that at 11? Nobody. Like, until a doctor tells you to think about it, I didn't know, and neither did my mom. There was no conversation about it. Now, interestingly enough, my daughter has a slight goiter in her neck. So I've been on it since the beginning. I'll be telling her right now, like, make sure you're getting checked up, getting your lab work done regularly, getting them ultrasounds done. Both my sisters now have presented with goiters.
Mm.
My one of
Is
my
it
sisters,
hereditary?
I believe it is. It can be, not always. I was probably the first person to present with it in my family and get the diagnosis. But my sister, the one who's here in Georgia with me, she is going kind of through the same thing. She has a visible goiter. You can see it, but her lab work is normal.
Normal.
So, of course, I am constantly in her ear and telling her what to say, how to word it, and what to say to her doctors. The sister who's still up in Connecticut, actually, she mimics having Graves' disease. So they're on it. I told her what to look for, the things that I went through because she was going through the hair loss, weight. She lost weight, like she's having a hyperactive thyroid issue, but it fluctuates sometimes. It goes underactive and overactive. And I'm just like, I don't know who else in my family had it before us and just didn't know. No, I
And you know
did.
what? And back then,
Ain't
people
nobody
were
talking
not,
about it.
yes, people, and they weren't on top of their health the way that I feel like we are more likely to be on top of our health these days than our parents were. I know my dad ain't like
Hmm.
no damn doctor. Like that just wasn't
Oh,
something
men
that
never
they
want to
did.
go.
Yeah, yeah, you well.
And I get it. And here's the thing, I understand it. It's hard to put your trust in a system that's not designed for you.
But see,
And
for
that's the
men
bottom
though, I don't
line.
feel like that's what it is though. I don't feel like
They just
that's
hard
the
headed.
reason. Yes, I don't feel like it's that. It's the women are the ones that think about it that way. I think
Hmm.
men just don't like going to the doctor because they don't want to be told nothing. They don't want
They be like, I ain't gay. Don't touch
they
my balls. I'm not coughing. Like, go.
cough. What? No fingers, no dude, that finger
Listen,
test
my husband's in his
can
40s. I'll be fussing at him all the time. Like, you better go to or
go to
go to this physical. I don't even
yes,
play them
and
games.
and
Mm-mm.
nowadays so many things are so preventable
Yes.
with proper care and
Yep.
proper advocacy for self and to have it's important to have the right doctor because I know, I have health issues that I deal with. I just discussed my journey with diabetes recently
Right.
on the show. And I also too have fibroids. And so it is just a combination of things that you have said today that I think myself and plenty of people in my chat is like, I experienced this. I
Have
experienced that.
you ever, and you said you have diabetes. So that means you see an endocrinologist.
I have not as of yet. No, I haven't. Nope. I am scheduled to see one
When you
because
do,
actually the pharmacist, when they changed my medication because my medicine wasn't working, they changed my medication. She was like, this isn't right for you. You need to see an endocrinologist. She was like, those are the only doctors that are going to help you manage this properly. And so
did they tell you to take metformin?
that's what I was taking. I am not now taking that anymore.
Can we just, for the people who are watching,
Yes, I'm not
metformin
taking
is one of the worst
worst
drugs
drugs
for
ever.
Black women,
It's
period.
it's
For
bad.
women specifically.
It's bad. It
It's
is.
bad.
And I
They
did
tried
the
to prescribe
research.
it to me.
I did the research on it later. And I was just like, it's not working anyway. It doesn't work. All it's doing is jacking your kidneys up. So, I finally found the doctor that I originally had when I first moved to Kansas City. When I first moved here, I found a doctor that I really liked. I felt like, and she's a PA. She's not, even like the doctor. She's the PA. And when I say she advocates for me, she her notes are so meticulous. She breaks things
Good.
down. She was like, "We're throwing the metformin away. We're not doing that."
Yes, throw it
Um,
away.
yes,
Never take it
she
again.
went through my history. She was like, "So this is what's been going on since the last 5 years that I've seen you." Because I'm telling you, I feel like my health changed when she wasn't managing it anymore. And I don't know if that's just coincidence or what, but I never felt comfortable with any doctor that I had. I felt like they didn't listen to me. I felt
They
like
weren't.
whenever I would tell them I was experiencing certain types of pain. It was just like, oh, you're overworked, you work a lot, and you're just tired. You need this, you need that. But I suffer from very low iron.
Mm.
I suffer from, yes, very
Tell
low
them to
iron.
please test you. Just asking for a thyroid
Girl,
panel.
I am.
And I'm only
I'm calling
asking,
tomorrow. Look, I'm calling
listen,
tomorrow.
and just make it's Thyroid Awareness Month. Just test my thyroid. Thanks.
Yes,
Please and
thank
thank you.
you.
Because they won't, and here's the thing, they won't know what's normal or not normal for you until they actually test it and then test you regularly to see if there are any trends. They think they do one test and it's like, oh, you're
Mhm.
fine. No, 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 no. We need to chart this. So the next time I come, do another panel so we can see, compare, and contrast my last visit with this one. It's not something that's always going to just show up right away. And that's a
Right.
lot of these doctors
Mhm.
are so hard headed, and they're just like, "Oh, is there a history of thyroid disease in your family?" And they feel like if there's not a history, it's nothing to be concerned about. But earlier, you were saying you had asked, "Why do I think they don't test?" I think the other reason is up until recently, thyroid disease was something that they didn't really see over here. It was most commonly found in Asia because of lack of iodine in their food. We
Mm.
have iodized salt, there's iodine in our food. So it wasn't something that was common. But now what I'm learning, and it's just my theory, I'm no scientist, but here's just my theory, generationally, right? What's the difference between our generation and the baby boomers, right? It's the food. It's the food and the water. It changed. When I was a kid, that's when the microwavables, right, started becoming a thing. You started getting the processed foods. You put it in the
Mhm.
microwave, all the little processed foods, little bagel bites, the pizza bites, the lean cuisine dinners, you name it. That's when we started heavily relying on microwavable food. And that's also during the time when we started to see them start to put hormones in the chicken, hormones in the meat. So you have all these different additives that started to come along when we were younger, when we were kids. And so this is what we're growing up eating, right? So of course, by the time we're adults now and our bodies are changing and growing and now we're having our own kids, you're starting to see more and more people with thyroid disease because what changed? The food changed. And I think
Food.
a lot of this comes from our water source, the foods we eat. They're not healthy. America is one of the only countries that still has over 500 ingredients used here that are banned in other countries. Let that sink
Mm.
in.
500.
500. 500 ingredients
I'm
banned.
gonna have to do
I
a
don't
show on
know
that.
if y'all got a Aldi's where you're at. You guys have
Absolutely.
Aldi's. All right. So something I learned about Aldi's is that they're a German-based store, and we just got another store called Lidl's, and it's like Aldi's competition. They're also German-based. But the reason I like shopping at Aldi's is not. I mean, price point is great because they're German-based. They don't have those banned ingredients in their food there. So a lot, yep, hormones. A lot of the stuff like the yellow dye, red dye, all that stuff that you can
Mhm.
go find on the shelves at Kroger, Publix, Superfresh, wherever you shop at, they don't have them at Aldi's.
Is that why they
And
don't have so many of the brand names there? Because
bingo.
you'll find
Yep, but not
some,
all.
but not
They don't.
all. That makes
And
so
there we
much
go.
sense.
And I'm
Okay.
like, but how many of us are really stopping to read the labels of food?
I'm gonna
Because
be
you got
honest with
time, you
you.
got a family, you running, you know what I mean?
I
You
just
trying to
grab it.
do what is financially affordable, right?
Ugh, it's
Let's
so
be
cheap to
real.
eat
I grew
bad.
up I grew up with three other siblings in the house. You think my mama and my dad, they had four kids to feed. You was getting that 10 pack of ramen noodles because it was gonna feed everybody. Like that's just the reality. Most people are shopping for what they can afford, not for the label. And when you live in a country that does not, the FDA, anybody ever think about the fact that the Food and Drug Administration are all under one agency?
Mhm.
Not the fact that you don't separate the food and the drugs from each other, but they're all run by the same organization. So the same agency that won't ban these food ingredients also will tell you to take a drug that comes with 35 million different side effects.
Mhm.
It's
You,
money
you,
to them.
yeah, you'd be better off, fighting what
They
you
don't
got
care.
instead of instead of
She
taking
said
the drug.
She said the chicken wings look like pterodactyl wings. That is absolute fact. Look,
He
I mean,
says
think
that
about
all
it.
the time too. Like, don't be
Let's
bringing me
be
home with
real.
no pterodactyl wings. That's
I
my
mean,
husband.
oh, hey, husband. Um, it's facts. Like I always I joke because every time my husband don't bring me no Fukushima food because Fukushima was the oil spill that happened in Japan a few years back. And shortly after, the jumbo shrimp started getting more jumbo, and I just started reading packaging like,
Oh,
where does shrimp come
snap.
from? Because if your crab legs look like grown adult legs, I don't want them. Like if
Girl, you blowing the
no,
lid off of everything right now. See, I never thought about that. Why
but
are
this
those
is the
shrimp so
thing.
jumbo?
Why is everything
Oil
so
spill?
jumbo that's not meant to be? Oh yeah, so Fukushima, I remember when that happened, and for years they were showing like the after effects, like double-headed fish and like all these weird plant life growing like ginormously big and stuff. Like here's the thing. We the even who owns the meat companies, it's like a monopoly. It's like Purdue and like one other company that owns like all of the chicken farms and all that stuff. All this food, I don't know that there's really a way to get away from all of the hormones and stuff because it's big business. I don't think we'll ever be able to 100% get away from it, but you can mitigate damage by trying to do your best if you can afford it. And let's be real, if you can afford it, to eat as healthy as possible. They force feed you eat your greens, right? Eat your greens and you'll be fine, you'll be healthy. How about I didn't know that
Uh-oh.
goitrogens are a thing. And goitrogens are things that will inflame the thyroid and create goiters. Did you know that there's a whole list of foods, healthy foods, that you should not eat in large mass amounts if you have a thyroid disease? Yeah, nightshades, tomatoes, eggplants, cruciferous
Tomatoes.
vegetables. Girl, yes, it's a
Ah,
list of foods. And it's not that you can't eat them, but if you eat them a lot, it could be contributing to the inflammation in your body. And I'm like,
girl, soon we're not gonna be able to eat nothing with all
nothing.
these different conditions that are, that get exacerbated because you eat certain things. Soon you're just gonna have to take a pill to eat.
Drink, and I would say drink the water, but God knows,
They're
God
gonna tell
knows
you
who said
you
it.
can't drink. You're right.
It's insanity, but the reality is the best you could do is just arm yourself with knowledge. And
Absolutely.
it scares the doctors. It scares
Mhm.
them when you know a little bit of something, but it's like I case of where I got COVID. I had COVID the first time in January 2021. So I literally got it 2 years later. And the first time I took it, I took oil of oregano, elderberry, and I slept and rested. And I took tinctures, and that is
Mhm.
cannabis in tincture like I won't smoke it, but I will take it
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
in
yeah.
liquid form.
I've had that. I've
So
had that.
that's exactly what I did this time. And I'm talking to my doctor on the phone the other day, and she said, and she's a fairly decent doctor, no beef with her or anything, but she said, what are you doing to treat it? And I told her I'm taking oil of oregano, elderberry vitamins, drinking my water, getting my rest, taking tinctures for pain if I need it. She said, oh, well, I can prescribe you Paxlovid. And I said, oh, okay, what's that? And she said, well, what does oil of oregano do? She didn't know what it did. And I said, oh, okay. Oil of oregano is a natural, keyword natural, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, helps gut health. It's a natural way of treating the ecosystem in your body. When I asked her what Paxlovid did, she said, oh, it's an antiviral. So I was like, okay. And she said, you could take this for 5 days. It'll cure, the whatever, help you get better through COVID. And she said, but it might come with side effects. And when she started to run down the side effects, including, oh, your COVID symptoms might return, but it'll just be for a little bit and it'll go away. I
What's
picked it up
that?
because it was free and I just read the inside of the label.
Oh God.
I said, no thanks. I'll be fine. I'm not taking that because you're basically telling me to take this synthetic drug that's going to come with side effects. And I've literally taken the oil of oregano just fine. That does the same thing. It's just not made in the laboratory. They
Mm.
don't even be hearing themselves when they be talking to me. And I'm like, unless I'm going to drop dead if I don't take this, heavy on the sea moss. I took sea moss heavily when I had COVID the first time. And you know what was so scary about having COVID the first time
Where do
is
you get
because
that from though? Because
the
you can't
farmer's
get sea
market,
moss from everywhere.
First of all, don't be buying the pre-made sea moss. I'm gonna tell
Right.
y'all, it is so easy. Buy your sea moss from a farmer's market. My husband gets it from Namde Moon down here. You soak it to clean it, drain it, rinse it, put it in the blender with a little bit of water until it turns into gel. The end. Don't let nobody sell you no $20 jar. It don't take. Please don't do that. But sea moss is so chock full of vitamins and minerals, right? And the one thing about having COVID is it affects your vitamins. Magnesium, it affects vitamin D.
Mm.
What's the other one? Zinc. Sea moss is so full of that. My husband was dumping sea moss in my protein smoothies for me. And the thing that was so scary about having COVID the first time is because I was larger. And, they expect you to drop dead when you have COVID and
Right.
you're fat. They couldn't even, they didn't even think we had COVID because my symptoms were so mild that when I came back positive, they were like, let me listen to your chest. And they were like, you having any trouble breathing? I'm like, no. But when I tell you I was eating so healthy already and I was already taking the sea moss and doing all of the things, it was like, but y'all want to prescribe me these drugs.
Synthetics. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm good. We not doing that. And I didn't do it this time. I presented with symptoms Tuesday night. Tuesday night I started feeling a little Wednesday is when I tested positive. Thursday was my worst day. I was down bad. By Friday, I was back up cleaning my house. And, I'm in here. I'm not going to go contaminate nobody, but I feel fine. Right. And that didn't require me to take anything other than what we took the first time. I, I appreciate what doctors represent. And of course, I will go to doctors for things that I absolutely need, but I don't trust y'all.
I mean, it's understandable.
I don't trust y'all. And sea moss is actually really good for people who have thyroid issues because with thyroid issues, it impacts your vitamin D, it impacts your zinc, it impacts your ability to anemia. That's another big one. I heard you say you were anemic.
Yeah.
It's a really big one linked to thyroid disease. And I'm still struggling with the anemia. And I don't know that that will ever go away because of the bariatric surgery I had. I had one of the most extreme surgeries. I had duodenal switch. So I only absorb about 20% of what I eat. So I have to forever be on a lifetime of vitamins. Um, and I've had to get two like iron infusions thus far since surgery.
I've gotten those, and they helped a significant amount.
Oh
But it,
yeah.
it was a temporary fix because until I do something about the fibroids, the anemia thing
So
is.
what are your and here's the thing. This is why I want them to test your TSH because one of the things is that the thyroid does affect your menstrual cycle, right?
Mhm.
You know what feeds fibroids? Blood.
Mhm.
And you know what make them fat for fibroids bigger? Blood. But do you
Mhm.
know people who tend to be heavier on the bleeding? People with thyroid disease. Underactive thyroid specifically. A hypothyroid will create a heavier blood flow, which is just going to feed your fibroid. Fibroids and thyroid disease go hand in hand together.
Well, I know I
Or,
definitely will be talking to that doctor tomorrow about that
listen
because I'm
here.
telling you, you are feeding the. This is the kind of stuff that I want my platform to be able to give people because they see someone that they can talk to, that they can
Yep.
hear, that they can dialogue with. You see how like you're reading that screen? They know that you hear them. And so many people, if you go back and watch this live, will say, "Oh, my wife has this. My wife experienced that.
Mhm.
I deal with this, I deal with that." And for so many of these different symptoms and signs to be linked to thyroid issues, I don't understand why we don't know more, why it is not on a broader spectrum for us to get this understanding.
Think
Like,
about it. When you go to the doctors, you go in, you see the CNA first or the assistant, right? They do your vitals. Then their medical assistant comes in and they sit down with you. And what brings you in today? They fill out the chart. They answer all the questions. Da, 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 da. You spend more time with the staff
mhm,
at the doctors than you do the actual doctor. Your doctor flies into the room, coat flying by, and hey, nice to see you today. They barely look at you. They scan through your chart, and by the end of that, they're prescribing you something.
mhm.
Did they really hear you? Were they really looking at you? No, because doctor's appointments are like fast food. You have a good doctor. I know you said you have a good doctor, but most times they're ready to see the next patient because they are booked. They only got about, and half the time they want you to be on time, but by the time you come in, you ain't seeing your doctor right away. You sitting and you waiting.
Yeah,
The
she's great.
whole,
She actually told me that she sees less patients. Like
but that's
they
a good
will,
doctor.
yeah, she was like, I left over from the place that she was at because like they were on her to see a certain amount of patients a day.
Money.
Right.
You
And
cannot, you can't
yeah,
care if you got too many
if you
patients.
got too
It's
many
too
patients.
hard.
And so she was like, I might see 6 patients today because she spends the time that she needs. She was in the lab with me, talking to me while I was getting my labs done.
That's a
You know
good
what I mean? Like
doctor.
she's amazing, and I actually went into her office and I just started crying because I was just like, I'm so glad I found you, and you're back in network, and just
And that part, the whole in network, out of
in
network, you
network, out of
can
network,
lose a
man.
doctor.
That's what happened. She left.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I had to stop going to the place that she was at, which was a horrible place, but I liked her because she
right.
kept trying. She was really trying to, make sure that I stay healthy. I was doing what I need to do. And like I said, I really feel like my health changed significantly when I stopped seeing her regularly because I feel like
That's
she had my best interest and would
absolutely.
school me on the things that I needed. She would even tell me, she would say, you can research this online and see what I ain't never had no doctor tell me to research nothing online.
They definitely don't, because they don't, because they're, well, when you research, everybody thinks they have cancer. I said, here's a couple of things that I did learn. I understand that when you go online, you got to filter out a lot of information. I am not going to come
Absolutely.
back diagnosing myself with meningitis or anything crazy. But the one thing I have learned is for me and my experience, I usually fall into that 1%. Right, the 1% of persons that it should happen to it be me. Case in point, my daughter, erythrotricycline. Yeah, I was on birth control. My sons, Depo-Provera. They both still exist, regardless of what I was on. I'm that 1% who will still get knocked up, even after being on birth control.
Ortho
And
tricycline got you too.
did it. When I
That is the worst birth
when I
control
but
ever. You want to get pregnant? Be on ortho
yeah,
tricycline.
yeah, yeah. Anytime. Anytime. Like, but I had to learn that
Hmm.
just because it's rare doesn't mean it's not your case. And you literally have to pay attention to your symptoms. Start documenting. When y'all are feeling things feel weird, write it down.
Mhm.
Time of day, what you were doing when you felt it, because you want all of the facts to be able to bring it to your doctor and say, all right, so this started on this date. This is what I noticed, this time of day, all of this stuff, because that gives them more precise information. But it also allows you to start doing some digging and researching yourself and learning what to ask for, because a lot of times these doctors are just not going to do it for you. If you got a good doctor, you get lucky, yeah, but
That's
you got
not
to
that's not
advocate.
the norm. That's not the norm to have a good doctor. You have the normal doctor everybody has. Okay, yeah, write the prescription, see you later. So I know you mentioned that a lot of times the standard panel of tests for the thyroid is not necessarily going to come back showing anything, right?
Right.
So you have to get deeper tests.
Yeah.
What is it exactly you would recommend for people who might feel like they need to be tested?
Well, first
What
things
do they
first,
go say to their doctors?
you tell your doctor, I want to see an endocrinologist and I would like a referral. Because the bottom line is primary care physicians are not endocrinologists and
Endocrinologist.
they should not be trying to medicate or treat your thyroid for you. They can send in the lab work, and that's nothing but a pen stroke for them, or order in the system. Tell them I want a full thyroid panel, not just TSH. Ask them for a full thyroid panel. Say I would like to be tested for the following: any and all thyroid hormones, including T1, T2. They often don't check for that. T3, T4, free and reverse. And you also want to be checked for antibodies for Graves and antibodies for Hashimoto's. Now, Hashimoto's I know is TPO. I'm not sure what the Graves antibody is, but you want to be tested for all of the above. You got to ask for it, because if you don't, the general thing they're going to
Mhm.
do is look at your TSH. And as long as your TSH looks normal, they're going to go, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. At at most, they might extend that to the T3 and T4. And a lot of times So, like, if your T4 is high but your T3 is low, that can indicate something. If your T3 is high but your T4 is low, that can indicate something. But they won't know if they don't look. Looking, they have to look at it all compositely. Like, they cannot look at it separately because it doesn't tell a whole story. So you have to ask them for a full thyroid panel, not just TSH.
Girl, I'm gonna have you
Did
upstairs.
I just hear Lady Fresh say
Okay,
she
let
want to
me
get
tell you.
pregnant?
Hold on, I had to put
Mm.
that up there.
I heard y'all in the comments cursing. Whew.
Uh, don't play with me. That's my husband. You know damn well I ain't say no. I am 42 years old. I ain't having no more babies. The baby factory is officially shut
Are your tubes
down.
tied?
No,
Well, then don't say that.
no. There's no more babies. No,
See,
there's no more
look,
babies.
listen. They told me that too. I just want to share.
Girl, we would have about 7 more kids if I still worked. It shut down. Okay, fibroids block everything. There's nothing happening.
Girl,
So
look,
and
when
look, I got to get
I
my
have
tubes
my
tied
C-section,
as soon as I get my thyroid test to make sure everything good and my health be all right. I'm getting my tubes tied because I ain't playing with you.
no, they when I had my C-section with my last child, I got them tubes tied during. I was awake. I was like, pull them out. Let me see. I need to see them for sure.
So I didn't. So the only reason I didn't get my tubes tied with London, um, and it's crazy. I just talked about this on the other podcast. Is as Fresh and I had a daughter before her,
Okay,
that passed away 35 days
I'm
after. She was
sorry
a
to hear
preemie.
that.
She was a preemie. So London is our rainbow baby, and
Oh,
so I just wasn't sure. Like I just needed to be sure that she
I
was going
got
to
you.
be okay. And so I was like, okay, we won't do it right then. We'll come
How
back.
old is she?
9. So I never
Oh,
went
you
back.
was really trying to make sure. Huh?
I never went back. Well, I left. Then we left Georgia when she was
Gotcha.
like a few months old, and I was like, I'm not letting another doctor touch me because Dr. Dawson. That was it. But yeah. But then I started developing issues with
Yeah.
my own health and with the fiber, and you know so far so
Why
good.
is
But
fibroids so prevalent in Black women? I think that's the question I have to ask
I don't know because
because
I feel like 9 out of 10 women that I know, and this is the crazy thing. My doctor told me, she was like, "Oh, you have 3 little friends that's been with you for quite some time." And I'm like, "What?" I never know. She said I had them for a while. And it's crazy. I had a surgery. I got a little work done, one time, another. I got a little work done. I'm in the industry. I work in cosmetic surgery. So I got a little work
well,
done.
can
And
I'm trying to get some work done.
when I got the work done, I was like, what is going on with my stomach? Why isn't it? That's when I found out I had fibroids. They were hidden behind a pad of fat. So when I got the fat removed, I was like, they botched my surgery. What the hell is going on? It wasn't
That's
fat.
insanity. It was
It
your
was the
fibroid.
fibroids. And she was like, they are good sizes. And where they were located is why they were like, you need to have surgery.
Did
You
you
gotta do
have them
this. You gotta
removed?
not yet. This is fairly
New. Oh,
new. Yeah. This has only
oof.
been a couple years because the pandemic happened and I was like, man, I ain't doing nothing during the pandemic. But yeah, that was when I found out I didn't even know because
Girl, I didn't
I
know
had the
neither.
mommy body. I had the mommy body, all the fliffer flaffer, as my husband calls it, my fliffer flaffer. Yeah, I had the little fupa. So I
Girl,
didn't
I
know.
didn't know. I didn't know. And the crazy thing is, because of my size, they would do ultrasounds, but they never saw any fibroids. And in insanity is that they had scheduled me for an ablation. They were going to cauterize
They were gonna do that.
right. I went in and came right back out apparently. And the doctor told my husband we couldn't do it because she has a fibroid sitting right in the mouth
Right
of
in
her
oh
uterus.
my God, girl, we got the
So,
same the same
all
they
right,
did the
fast forward.
same
I'm
thing.
like, all right, what do we do
What are we
now?
gonna do now?
So
Partial
after I had,
hysterectomy, did they tell you that?
they prescribed, no, they told me I couldn't have a hysterectomy because I've got too much. I have Asherman syndrome, and that's scar tissue from having C-sections. So they're like, we
Oh,
don't want to remove your uterus. And at the time they were like, well, you're too big. We can't do that anyway. But when I got a new OBGYN, had my weight loss surgery, I went to go see her and she did my ultrasound. She said, well, I don't know what fibroids you had in the mouth of uterus because that ain't there no more. But I have an intrauterine muscle fibroid. So it's not in the uterine cavity, it's in the wall of the muscle.
Mhm.
And she was like, we can't go in there and just cut that out. That's not going to be a
Right.
thing. So what they did was they put me on something called Listata. So when my cycle comes on, I take that 3 times a day for 5 days. It keeps me from
It
bleeding to
keeps you
death.
from bleeding to death. Yes, I've had it.
And so they're like, as
It's
long as this
expensive
works
as
for
hell
you,
too. I mean, like,
not mine. It's
I know, yeah,
$10.
no, I might. I guess I have new insurance now though, so
Got you.
a whole bunch of stuff
And
is
it's
covered
saving
that
my
wasn't
life.
before.
And it's
Yes,
like,
yes,
if
yeah.
you can, they were like, if you can stay on this until you become menopausal, you'll be fine and good to go. The last ultrasound they just did, they told me my fibroid was calcified, like it was dried up.
Wow.
I'm like, well, good, let's keep it coming. Now, if I do start to bleed excessively, I know it's thyroid related because that's hormonal. So I know, okay, I need my meds adjusted or whatever the case may be. But the fibroid is almost non-existent at this point. So I'm
That's
I'm
awesome.
I'm hoping,
I look
I
forward.
can.
Look, I look forward to that day
I
because
hope I can
that
make it
is
to menopause. I never thought I would be looking for the
for the
menopause, but
menopause. Man,
I'm like
I'm
the
still
tube's
not looking
tied.
for. Listen, menopause, man, that's a whole nother beast, man. I've seen some
Child.
people going through that, and I'd be like,
I watched my
I
mama.
didn't
It's
know
pronounced
that it
fliffer
was.
flaffer.
Yeah, see, my husband, he's so mean. He's so rude. Um, I didn't realize until just a couple years ago that menopause was so it could be so long. Like it's
Yes.
years. And I'm like, what? Why
Like,
why? Why? And just to be the hot, the cold. I don't like to be hot. Temperature wise, I don't like to be hot, but and
well,
that's
I'm
I
always
know my
cold.
iron is crazy because I'm literally my husband be like, "You're in the furnace down here," because I have the heat on and the house heat is on,
Me
and I've
too.
never been that person. I always have the air on, even in the winter. It'd be like 68 degrees in my house, but
Okay,
now
let me tell you something. Get
iron
get
is
that
so low.
get that get that thyroid check,
No, I'm
because
definitely because I'm scheduled to go in February 1st.
an
And
aversion
then
to cold is a big symptom of thyroid disease, and I didn't know that. I started going through these periods. Well, first of all, I never sweated a lot. In fact, dare I say, for as fat as I was, I might glow nicely. And I mean, I could have been
I
running
like
and I
that
never
girl.
sweated. You know what I mean? But that was a sign that something was off within my body temperature. But as my anemia got worse, of course, I got really cold. But like, I can't stand the cold, which is why I moved down here in the first place. Because I was like, I've had enough of the winter in the north. No, bring me to the south.
Oh, you would love
I,
Kansas City then. It's
why is it?
so
Is it?
cold. It's
No,
cold.
God, no. I refuse. Like, I refuse to go up north anywhere unless it's summertime. We went to Philly in June. Usually, we used to go during the winter break. I'm like, no more. I don't want no snow. I don't want no cold. And this is probably the coldest winter we've had in Georgia since I've been down here, and I'm over it. I don't want no parts. I Send me to the beach. You were fat. You were fluffy. Definitely fat and fluffy. I'll take that. I'll take that. I but check, like, just have them check your thyroid, because I don't. Whenever I hear women start talking about the trifecta of
Listen,
fibroid, diabetes, and I'm like,
from the moment I started working on this episode, every day
it'll
I'm
blow
like,
your
okay,
mind.
I was like, I'm checking off too many things that are, I'm like, okay. And it's crazy because that video I played of you, the second video where you were like, what is it? You need to know? I'm going to give you some facts. I'm like, damn, it's everything hot, cold. You know what I mean?
This is
Low
why
iron,
it's the
high iron.
powerhouse to the body. I'm like, there's no other organ in the body besides the brain that has that much impact on the body.
Let's say,
He's why does he sound like my husband? Me and we be ready to hear the fight and tussle, because
he's a
we
New
live in
Yorker.
ah that
No,
makes so
and
much
see,
sense.
he doesn't and so like this is strange for him because I've always been the one freezing everybody in the house. But just like I want to say starting around October, just and when I had got my panel back and my iron was really low. And they was
Yeah.
like, okay, you got to do the regimen out of iron pills before we can get you another iron infusion because the
Yeah.
insurance company say that you got to do that. Iron pills do nothing. All it does is make you not go to the bathroom. So, right.
The
So,
struggle. The
right.
struggle.
So she was
Ooh.
like, I don't care if you take it or not. I just have to put it in the paperwork that says that I prescribed it to you. You do it. You don't. I don't care. You just get past it so you can get the iron infusion. Brother passed
Does the iron
away.
infusion help you?
It did. It did.
Okay.
It lasted maybe about, I'll say about 6 months. I felt significantly better. I think part of the reason was because I was on that same medication you were on that slowed down your
Gotcha.
so I wasn't losing as much. And I had the iron infusion. So everybody kept saying, we don't know how you get out of bed every day.
Yep.
And I was like, it really is a struggle, and people don't understand. I had no idea how many issues you have from anemia. I
Yep.
have serious restless leg syndrome,
Oof.
and I kept saying, I'm crazy. Something's wrong with me. Why is everything hurting? Like this makes
Did
no
you ever
sense.
have chest pain?
No
Like pressure.
chest
It
pain.
doesn't even necessarily feel like pain. It's like
Yeah,
almost
I
like
like
pressure.
something sitting, like something
Mm-hmm.
sitting. Only when I laid down. When I sat up, I
Yep.
was fine.
Yep.
But that went away.
Yep.
That went away. And so when I look and I started doing the research, because I'm like you, I'm like, what is all of this stuff? And the odd thing is, nothing about the thyroid ever came up, which I think is kind of odd because of so many of the similarities. But I do know that anemia comes with a bout of issues that I had no idea that's just simply having low iron
Yeah.
would cause. And so
Yep.
once I got the iron infusion, because I refused to get the iron transfusion, I ain't want nobody blood.
Yeah.
Um, it was like day and night, and everybody said it. They was like, "You're gonna feel so much better." But whatever the issue is, whatever the culprit is, you're gonna have to take care of it because it's only gonna last for so long.
Yep.
So we worked. Now that I got
Definitely.
my doctor back, girl, we had to go back
Hella
to
get busy
zero. Yeah,
because
we had to go back to zero, but we're
I
working.
think
I'm hoping by the
sometimes
summer.
our age plays a factor too. I think as our bodies get older, we've had children, hormones shift, all those things impact the environment in the body. We just got to stay on top of this stuff. You have to. And I mean, I know it's so much extra work for because you feel like you want Google a lot. You taking notes and you're reading, but it's such a necessity. You got to, because you just cannot wait on these doctors. Because by the time they figure out what's wrong with you, you're gonna need surgery. Like, and I hate to say that, but that's what happened to me. It was like by the time we figured out what was wrong, it was time for the thyroid to come out, and they couldn't salvage it. There
And I
was
was going to
no,
say, you probably, being that you've been having the issue since you were young, they
yeah.
probably could have, your life would have been completely different.
But you know what's the sanity? Here's the best part of all this. Before we got an official diagnosis of thyroid disease, I told you I was having chest pains a lot. So of course, at my size, in my mind, I'm like, I am going to have a heart attack. I am dying. I am going to die of a heart attack. So I went to the emergency room. They cleared me. They did a CT scan. They're like, no heart attack symptoms, nothing. Like patient morbidly obese, blah blah blah. They put all that stuff in my chart. I just so happened about a couple months ago we moved. Um, Here we moved. Oh, not a couple months. It's almost a year now. But I was going through my medical records and I came across a medical record from the emergency room. So, of course, I'm reading through it. Do you know that while I was in the emergency room for the chest pain, on the record it says patient's left lobe of thyroid enlarged. Patient needs to be referred to endocrinology.
Mhm.
No one said anything to me when I left that emergency room. And that was like
Wow.
at the end of 2016. I didn't get an official diagnosis until 2017. I don't know how I missed it. And that's my bad for not reading my chart. But when you leave and the doctor comes in and says, okay, here's your next steps, nobody not once, but they saw it on the CT scan when they were looking at my chest to make sure I didn't have a heart attack. They saw that the left side of my thyroid had already started to enlarge. By the time I had surgery, the right and left lobe were messed up. But I'm like, how did y'all see that? And nobody was like, by the way, go see endocrinology. When I tell you how much I be ready to tussle with the doctor, it's like I don't even think you understand. I be so violent when I go to the doctors because
Listen, you
I'm
gotta
like,
be.
you just can't play around. The one thing I would encourage anybody watching this to is trust your body. A
Mm,
lot of times we feel like we're hypochondriacs. And a lot of time, I think also the strong black woman thing is going to kill us. I believe that wholeheartedly because we will tough it out. Because I can't even tell you how long I toughed it out before I actually went and got help.
yeah, that's what we do.
Your body, every ache and pain means something, whether it means something serious or not, right? Everything means that because nothing should just start hurting for no reason. Things shouldn't swell up for no reason. These are all signs that something's going on in your body. Don't ignore it. You could take a Tylenol. If it makes it go away, all right, cool. But if you have something that's persistent or consistent and keeps coming back, something you just feel off, don't ignore your gut instinct because that's your body's way of saying something's up. And it may not know how to get your attention. Pay attention to it. You're not crazy. You're not insane. Pay attention to your body because nobody knows your body better than you. You've been in it your entire life. So you know when something feels off. Don't let these doctors talk you out of coming in. I went into the emergency room a couple months back because every time my cycle came on, I thought I was about to die. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But not in it didn't feel like cramps, right? It was like up here and I was having this crazy chest pain. We went to the emergency room and I started not to go because I'm like, I don't want to go. And they be like, it's nothing wrong with you. I sat in the emergency room for like 12 hours on pain of death. They did all these tests. Turns out my gallbladder needed to come out.
Damn.
I almost didn't, I almost left because I just felt like I've been in here for this
And
long.
this
I'm
is
ready to go.
recent, right?
Yeah, I just had my
Yeah.
gallbladder out November 29th.
Yeah, I was
These
gonna say I
tests
just saw your I think you did like an update post where you were
Yeah,
saying
girl.
how
I
you
I
were.
thought and now for those who don't know, when you have rapid weight loss or rapid weight gain, it can damage your gallbladder. When I had my surgery, they told me my gallbladder was intact, so they didn't want to take it out. But he did tell me like it's a possibility that it might go bad. It happens. It's a part of and I lost like 200 pounds in a year. Like my gallbladder was like, we've had enough. Sis, I'm crapping out. It's done. When they took it out, they said it was filled with sludge and gallstones. They were like, that's why you were in so much pain. Now, I would have never known had my pain not synced up with my menstrual cycle. And they still don't know why it did that. They were like, it could have been just hormones. But for whatever reason, I only felt that pain when I was on my cycle. But I started to not go to the emergency room because I'm like, I do not want to, I don't want to, they going to think I'm crazy. Like they going to, the cab and Emery gonna be sick of me because I'm here all the time. Like, but if I hadn't gone, it could have burst. You know what I mean? Like, don't discount your pain and your discomfort. Like, it's a real thing. Your body is telling you something's wrong, and you may not always know what that something is because, every time we hear chest pain, no, and heart attacks present differently in women, jaw pain,
Yes,
all that
you
stuff. Like, don't take it for granted. All right, Alexa. Like, don't take it for granted. Like, literally pay attention to your body. Don't let these doctors demean you to the point where you feel like, I don't want to go back to them because it'll kill you. It can kill you. If you get a doctor who's rude, find another one. I fire doctors
I've
left and
done,
right.
yeah, I've done a lot of um doctor hopping because
Yep.
if I'm not feeling you, if you ain't listening, I can't.
It means
I
your
can't do it
life.
because I know that first I was like, because I did have some chest pains and they were like, they would come and then they go, but they were intense. And you could not tell me I wasn't dying. I was like, okay, I don't know what a heart attack feel like, but this ain't normal. What is going
Nope.
on? And I went to the doctor. They was like, there's nothing wrong with your heart. It was, they told me that it was, like a really bad form of indigestion.
GERD, reflex.
Reflux, yeah. And they gave me this message. She was like, you might be on it for a week. You might be on it for 2 weeks or have to take it for the rest of your life. We don't know. And I'm like,
Reflex.
another medication.
Reflex
It
is
was gone.
also very common in
Yeah, it's
thyroid
gone.
patients.
I never felt it again, but it was enough to make me go see a
But it's
cardiologist.
also very common in thyroid patients.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna
I kid
find
you
out.
not, because of how the thyroid, where it sits in front of your vocal cords and your esophagus. So I was having bad reflux and GERD like crazy for years.
Yeah, I never did though, because that's not what it felt like to me.
It doesn't feel like it.
I've never had like, like some people
They
who
gave you that
suffer
cocktail,
from
right?
they suffer from reflux like all the time, like every time they eat or drink something
Yep.
or whatever. That was never I never even knew what reflux felt like. I was like, this ain't not, I don't feel nothing in here. I feel
Nope.
a elephant sitting on my
On
chest
my
when I lay
chest.
down.
Yes, absolutely.
And
But
I thought he was crazy. I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then they were like, oh, we got to get this is the thing that kills me, the pre-authorization from the insurance, even though it says that the insurance is going to cover it. And then, so you're telling me I got to wait 2 weeks to find out if something's wrong with my heart? Like that, I don't understand how all of that works. But I'm glad to have my doctor back because she don't play that shit. She is pushing things to the top. She don't play that. She don't play that at all. Like she was like, I
if
wish
you
I
get
would
a
have
good
known.
doctor
But hold
and
on.
you can hold on to it, you better hold on to it. Like I fortunately, the one good doctor I had, she was in Philly. She was the only doctor, and she was the one doctor ever who thought, let's get you a thyroid panel. And do you know, she was out of network by the time so she couldn't write, and insurance wouldn't cover it. And that was 2010. She was the last doctor I had who was just a really good doctor and really cared. And I don't think I've ever had a doctor like her again. Now, my current doctor is a health at every size doctor. I chose her for that reason because I don't want a doctor who's just going to be like, lose weight, because I'm going to fight the next doctor who tell me to lose weight. And so I went with her. There's things I'm still working out with her, but she's pretty good because she listens and she's not arguing with me. She's not like dismissive. She's like, you want this? All right, good. We're going to get this checked out. Like, if you can get a doctor who's just willing to listen, even if they don't agree with you, just
Mm-hmm.
willing to listen and to get all the tests, run with it. Run with it. Don't let them go. And I know insurance is a whole nother beast.
I've learned so much
Apple cider
about
vinegar
it.
is awesome for reflux. Oh, thank you, Pamela. Apple cider
I've added
vinegar.
apple cider vinegar to my daily regimen. A teaspoon every day.
Yeah, I keep
Every day.
ACV in the
It
house.
keeps my A1C
Absolutely.
down.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, but before you go, I noticed because I got to do my research a little bit. I noticed that you have a podcast with your husband,
Well, I do. I
A1P
do.
podcast. So tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that in case the people want to check that out.
Oh, we just be talking junk. No, we just be talking junk and talking about random stuff in the media, parenting, marriage. My husband and I had a very interesting relationship. I used to be ashamed to tell people, now I don't care because we 18 years in this thing, but we met on Craigslist. So
Really?
oh yeah, yeah. We met on Craigslist. We had a wild ride getting to where we're at now. But we grew so much together. I guess I was 20 when I met him. He was 25. I was in school at the time. I needed my computer fixed. And so there used to be a
Ah,
category on Craigslist that was like searching for friends or something like that. And I saw him in there, and he was just beginning his IT career at that point. I didn't know anything about IT, but I was like, IT, computers, okay, maybe he can fix my computer. And we started messaging each other, and we used to email. That went to instant messaging on AOL. Yeah, I'm telling my age. I'm telling my age. It was like AOL chat. And then, that progressed to us talking on the phone. And that is how we met, how we started dating, was straight
ain't
off
nothing wrong
Craigslist.
with that, girl. Ain't like you
Um,
went on there seeking for a booty call or
nah,
something.
nah. But no, it was just so random. But I spent almost the last 20 years with this man. So we've literally, when we get on our podcast, we talk about everything. Me and my husband have different points of views on things. But the thing that I do love about us is that we're
Sounds like
always willing to learn. And let me say, when you said your husband was from New
you
York, I
from New
almost
York.
fell out my chair because my daughter's biological donor, if you catch my drift, is from Brooklyn. Um, and ever since then, Since
They a
then,
whole different breed.
they are a whole different breed.
We from Harlem, so
Okay,
we
all
much
right.
more cool and level headed.
Because I'm like to this, and I'm grateful for my husband. He's been in my daughter's life since she was 2, and I love that for us because me and Brooklyn, he's not my guy. Okay, he's not my guy. He's not my dude. Like I can't even stand a New York accent, and it is crazy because a lot of my mom's family is from New York. I will never like. I'm allergic to New York men and people because it just reminds me of him.
Oh, well, you like
No,
me.
I love you. Yes, no, I'll just be kidding. But whenever I hear people be actually married to New York men, I'd be like, how?
Well,
How did you do
so
it?
the only we work because I'm a New Yorker too. We grew up.
Gotcha.
I don't like to say together because he's like way older than me. So
What's
we grew
way
up.
older?
I grew up with his sister. We were the same age and we were
Okay.
best friends. And he was the older brother who was like pesty and he would pick on us and he would talk about us,
Oh.
all kind of stuff. And so I despised him for most of my adolescent life. And then we reconnected in Atlanta.
Mm,
I think I needed a babysitter or some shit.
y'all gotta
And
come
he
on
was
the
so cute.
show.
Oh,
Y'all
definitely.
gotta
You got
come
to
on
come
the
on our show.
show.
So a lot of times,
Yeah.
if I'm not doing the regular fresh perspective, we'll do something called the Freshes, which is
Okay.
you Fresh Breezy, I'm Lady Fresh. So we'll sit up here and we basically troll each other the whole night.
Yeah,
Like,
we love stories. Like, and
yeah.
that's the thing. Me and my husband, we go at it because we're polar opposites, and I think that's why we work. I'm more the spicy one. He's definitely the more level headed one. In this relationship. Oh, Alexa, stop. Um, but he's wild, and I think what I love most about it is our perspectives are so different because we grew up differently. He's an only child. Well, he said Brooklyn dudes don't use their legs. Brooklyn dudes don't use a lot of things. Common sense being the number one thing they don't use. But I love, yes, we would love to have y'all on. We definitely love to hear from
Yeah,
other
and vice
couples.
versa. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we would definitely love to do something like that. I'm working on I want to do a couples games night.
Ooh,
Kind of like who knows each other best kind of thing. So I'm
I
working
got a
on that.
referral for y'all then.
Okay.
We have a couple, they have a podcast. They actually do streaming on caffeine. It's called Married to the Bars. They're very heavy on they love rap battle, but they interview couples and do all different stuff. I think they would love y'all because they've been looking for couples to interview and talk to about love and marriage, and also they want to do a game night thing. So I have to
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna
well we
send
all need to do a
yeah.
little collaboration
That
on
would be
one of our
dope.
channels. That'll
That
be
would be
dope.
dope.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna make sure I need to find the link. I have it somewhere in here. The link to your how often do you do your YouTube content?
Um, so we took a break just because I was adjusting to being back at work and all that stuff. So we've been really sporadic with it, but typically we were doing it on every Sunday.
Mhm.
Um, right now, I'll probably say we probably do about once a month. And I just separated my YouTube channels because I had one is for beauty, the other is for the podcast and like the health stuff. So, um, we'll probably be back to doing it every Sunday. But we could just set up a time that's available for y'all. I'm usually free in the evenings, and we can just figure
That
something out.
sounds good to me.
Because we
Definitely.
pre-record it and then we rip the audio and we put it on Anchor and Spotify and all that, and then we put
Okay.
the
See,
visual on
I gotta
YouTube.
get to that part. I haven't learned how to do all the editing stuff. So
It's
everything I do
easy.
is live and I just started, learning the editing stuff. So if you have a few more minutes, I just dropped the link. Coach Al, I think he's in the back. Coach Al, is that you? Coach Al. Is that you, Al? Your audio is
Yeah, I'm
bad.
on go on my other phone.
Al, you might have to go out and come back in. I gotta put my banners up because people will try to porn bind you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. So I wanted to be able to take a question or two from either the chat or if you wanted to come up, I dropped the link. I have her for a few more minutes. So if anybody has any questions for Miss AP Young,
She said you're
feel
the most
free.
genuine, respectful, kind-hearted, good people. Aw. I think she's talking
That's
about you
my
and your
ginger.
husband.
That's my ginger. Yeah, people love to see our banter. Like we have a lot of
Oh,
videos.
I can't wait. I'm about to be nosy.
Yeah, any of the ones that say the freshest, and a lot of times he'll come up. Even after I've done an interview, he'll come up and he'll thank whoever's
That's
coming up
dope.
on the
I
show
love to
or
see it. I
whatnot.
love to see Black couples doing their thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think we need more representation of healthy relationships.
Now nobody
Mm.
said our relationship was healthy. We just said we we come up here on YouTube sometime now. That's my best friend. We have our moments where we
Absolutely.
really ready to tear each other eyes out.
Okay, that's real life. That's real life. But
But
but that's your best friend. I completely
yeah,
understand that.
I kill somebody about him though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But like what I be trying to tell people, okay, like when I legit tell people he's my best friend, you talk to him about everything,
Hmm.
absolutely.
And that's how it
Like
should be. Like that's your
it should
comfort.
be.
That's
It's
how
your
it is.
sanctuary. That's home. And sometimes I be forgetting he a man because I be spilling the tea with him. I'm like, babe, you gotta. He just be looking at me. He don't know none of these people. He be like, really? Okay, go ahead, go on.
No,
What
but
you
is he
talking
really
about?
listening to you?
He does,
Oh,
cause he
that's good. That's
remembers.
good.
Cause then when he be seeing people, he be like, guess who I just. He be like, guess
And
whose
you know
post I
what's so
just
funny?
seen.
I don't really get the opportunity to do that much with my husband because he's around for almost everything. We work together.
Yeah.
We run the
Oh.
businesses together. We do podcasting together. He got his own
Oh.
platform. I got mine. We watched a lot of the same stuff. There's some stuff that I refuse to watch that he watch. But yeah, like so all of our stuff is like
Linked.
mingled in. So a lot of times I don't get to come home and be like, babe, guess what happened? Unless we are like we do hair transplant surgeries. So unless he's working in another office, we're usually together. So if he's with one doctor and whatever, and I'm with another doctor, something might transpire in one of our offices. So
Yeah.
we're telling each other, but for the most part, it'd be like, ooh, we know all the
Yeah,
tea, we
look,
know all the
he
business.
he gets to work from home, so I do leave. I get one remote day during the week, but everything else I will definitely shout out my husband, because all of the blogging, growing my Instagram, all that stuff, these were starting my business, my beauty brand, like these were things that he was like, oh yeah, you could do this. Like he literally just
The
believes
biggest
in
fan.
me in a way that I don't think any man ever could have done, and whatever he thinks I can do,
That's so
he believe
important.
it. He's just like, go for it, babe. So he's been with me along every step of this journey as I've grown, all that stuff, and I
And
truly,
don't
truly appreciate him.
we want to be doing everything too. So to have that man that support that is a big deal. Because I'm like,
And be
okay,
funding it too. I'd be like, yes, come,
mm.
drop some
He'll be
quick.
like,
I
okay, I think
appreciate
I'm
it.
gonna open a fifth business. He be like, really? Okay.
Whatever, and that's the thing. Like that's why when he was just like, well, you already a paralegal. He called his boss and messaged his boss like, what she got to do? He's like, I think she'd be perfect for this type of role at IT. And he's like, oh, she's already got a paralegal. She needs this cert. My husband was right there, just bought my book and everything so I could study for the exam. Like, that's just how he is. And I love that for me. And I love that other people get to experience that kind of love because it's top tier, unmatched. Like,
Oh, I
I don't
love
want to
that.
do it any other way. I really don't. I really don't. That is literally my best friend. So I'm glad that you have a partner who is your best friend and that y'all are just out here taking over, doing it
Till
together.
death do us part.
Yep,
Literally till death.
till the wheels fall off. And I be telling my husband, look, I'll be ignorant and don't die just so you can't get me married.
Oh damn.
No, he's not. I
That
told him you are not allowed to move on after me. I don't, and I want everybody to know that I'm not that wife who's over here like I want you to move on and be happy after I'm gone.
and
No.
see, I am though. I'd be like, man,
Mm-mm.
you better find you another big booty girl that you can
Oh,
love.
mm-mm. Only what? Not
Nah.
after my kids is grown and out of the house. Feel free, but mm-mm. I might come back.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. No, I'm absolutely not like that. I'm like, yo,
No, I be messing
I
with
just
them.
no, but I know people like that for real. And that, I mean,
For
listen, I can understand, yo, because if that's a great love of your life, like you
yeah.
don't even want to think about You
Nope.
don't think about you being with someone else. So you definitely
Nope.
won't even be thinking about them with somebody else. But I don't know. I don't know. I just want people to be happy.
Yep. I want people to be
And
happy, but
so
you
I
make a
don't mean
valid
get a
point.
wife. I don't mean get a wife next week. But
Yeah, take your time and mourn me.
I
Like I
know,
meant
but I
something.
know it's gonna be very hard for a woman to be with my husband. Is not easy. So she gonna have her work cut out. I
Well,
think
that's
Coach
why you still
Al is
here.
yeah, I think Coach Al is trying to come back up.
Back in the game, baby, baby.
Hey Coach Al.
How
Hey,
you doing,
coach.
ladies?
How you doing? How
Salute
you
to both
doing?
of you sisters, and salute to you, sis, for all the stuff you done been through. I
Thank
was
you.
listening, and I'm like she said, I'm one of them guys that my wife got that. My wife has this. First of all, she always cold. She's on that
Mm,
iron. I'm gonna ask her if she's heard about the iron. What do you call it? Transfusion or infusion?
infusion. Yep.
Yeah, because she has her iron is always so low where she's cold and she also gets dizzy. So
Mm,
I'm gonna ask her to go check on that.
Yes.
And before this show,
absolutely.
I didn't even know men had thyroids. So that just lets you go know
Yeah,
where
I
I'm
told him
at
last
with it.
night, please tune in. He was like, do men have one?
No,
Everybody
yeah.
got one.
And I was really truly enjoying the show until I was ran off. I was being bullied,
By my
today,
husband.
Lady Fresh. You need to
I'll
control your
take care.
health
No,
over
I
there.
got you. I'm gonna take care of him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take
control your
care of him.
health because I don't understand why this is not
Meanwhile,
supposed
he
to
in the
be that type
comments.
of show. It ain't supposed to be that type of show.
Sister
My
went
feelings were
crazy.
hurt a bunch of times.
I know.
But
I'll take
sister,
care of it. I promise. Because I don't have that over here at the front.
that's right. It's not that kind of show. It's not
Not
that
that
kind of
kind of show.
show.
Yes.
Hey, look,
I
sister.
saw you say several times that you were being bullied. So I got you.
Yes, yes, I felt like that. I just didn't feel I had to go through that on your show. I expect at other places. But good help is hard to find, no Lady Fresh. I understand
Ain't
what
it,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
He didn't even
Who's
start
the
dinner yet.
shade?
I really, you my girl, Lady Fresh, because it's playoff Sunday. I'm sitting here at Islands Restaurant watching the game, but I got you on tablet. I had to make sure that you
Oh,
know what I'm saying. Yeah, I've been sitting here the whole game with you on tablet watching you.
I see that's
So
why I love my supporters because
that's
you
dope.
guys will sacrifice games. I mean, if it was a Lakers game, you ain't really sacrificing much.
I
But
hear you. I hear you. I know it's rough like that around here. You know what I'm saying? I was just telling my man, I
Woo.
don't know what I'm gonna do if the Celtics win, man. I swear to God. Cause I ain't gonna never hear the end of it. I already know, man. It's gonna be rough around
it
this
don't
show.
we don't even have to win. The minute y'all are
Oh, you need it. No, 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 no. You need 18. It's all about 18. Cause that 17 and a half I got is all fire, baby.
yes.
Anyway, sister, look here. I appreciate what you was going. You keep on giving that information out here because
Thank
even when we
you.
don't know that we need it, we out here listening. See, I caught a
I'm
bunch of those hits,
glad.
and I'm also gonna tell my doctor, put that. Are you saying you're gonna put that in my chart? Yeah, I'm on that
Bam.
ass,
Yep,
sis.
that's the one
So
right
you
there.
taught me a whole bunch of stuff today. Y'all
I'm
salute to
glad.
you. Thank you, Lady Fresh. Please
Thank
check
you,
your
Coach
help.
Al.
This is my official complaint I'm filing against Mr. Fresh. You have a
Thank you.
great
I'll
day.
make sure I forward that on to HR. I got you.
Hey. Oh man, your
I
audience is
love my
awesome.
supporters. Yeah, I love my
They are
supporters. They have
awesome.
been with me through thick and thin. There's been some times, boy, I didn't even want to get on here. And like I've been taught, don't go live if you don't feel like going live. But sometimes I really need it. I
Yeah.
need the people. I need to talk to them. And I always feel better. And so Coach Al,
Well, I'm
he's
gonna
getting
have
ready to
to have
start his
you
own.
come
His
do a live. You're gonna come
Oh,
have to
I'd
do a
love
health
to.
talk live. Absolutely.
I did my first interview today via Zoom. It was my very first time being on the other side of the microphone. So I'm
How do you
probably gonna
feel?
edit it. I'm gonna edit it and put it
Awesome.
on my show. But yeah, I felt good. I had to talk about my journey with my daughter that was premature, and it's always hard. And like by the time I get to the end of the story, I always have like tears in my eyes, but I
Girl.
refuse to let them fall. I just, you know, I love to tell that story because it can help someone. And I
Yeah.
think that the advancements in medicine and us being advocates for ourselves, that preemies with my daughter's condition are surviving more. And so, I definitely don't mind talking about it. And, I look forward to doing more interviews and being on the other side of the microphone. So I would love anytime you want me to
Oh yeah.
come through.
I'm
I
gonna drop you a
definitely
link right after this. Yep, schedule some time because I think it's important. And like I said, I want people who can speak to things that I may not necessarily know about, but if it's valuable information and it's going to help somebody, absolutely. So definitely let's do that. Let's set that up. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. It's to the Lady Fresh
absolutely.
audience. Y'all are so dope. Thank you for hanging out with us. I had a great time.
Thank you. I mean, the information that you share with us is invaluable. I mean, it definitely, like I said, just me doing my research, trying to figure out what am I going to talk about for the month of January. So I went through the list of all the January awarenesses, and I don't know why this one stuck out to me because I'm like, no one talks about thyroids.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear anybody talk about it. And so when I looked it up to see exactly what it did, what its functionality was, and all that, I was like, this sounds very important. Why are we not discussing it?
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of content that I like to bring, is the stuff that we should be talking about, but no one's talking about. And so
Yeah.
coming across your page, it just tied everything in together and confirmed what it is that I believed in, what it was I wanted to do. So I thank you. I appreciate you so much for taking the time out your busy schedule, even while sick with COVID. You are here, girl.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm in
you.
the house, so don't worry, y'all. I'm not infecting nobody. I'm all up in my room.
Girl, you want to scream for us? We good, and I will
Yeah.
be in Atlanta, February 2nd through the 5th.
Okay.
I have a baby shower. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna be a grandma. I watched this young lady grow up from like
Mm.
she was like 7 when I met her, and now she's having her
Oh.
own baby. One of my best
Oh.
friends' daughter. So I'm coming there to celebrate that with her, and so I love Atlanta. That's our second home away from it,
Gotcha.
from New York. So I'll definitely
Well, if
be
you
coming
got
through there
time,
soon.
maybe we can link up and do lunch or something brief. I know you're
Definitely,
coming
I
to
will
see
let you
friends, but
know.
I would love to. Absolutely.
Definitely will let you know. All right. Did
All
you have
right.
any last words for us?
Nope, just thank you. And hopefully this information is useful. Of course, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend because, like Coach Al, even if it doesn't affect you directly, it could definitely affect somebody else that you may know. And of course, check out the blog, scroll through it, read it, and apyoungbeauty.com. That is actually the beauty site. Everything is $5 or less right now while I'm clearing inventory. So if you want
Let
to
me
shop it,
write that
ladies,
down.
feel
AP
free.
Young.
Yeah, this
You
whole
said
beauty.
AP Young Beauty.
Yep,
Mhm.
apyoungbeauty.com. Eyeshadow, lipstick, blush, you name it. I got a little bit of everything. It's running low now, but yes, feel free to support a
Well, I
black
had to give
business.
me something on reserve.
Yep. But yeah, feel free. And anytime there's any questions about health advocacy, my virtual door is always open. Y'all can shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me a message on my website. I will always respond and always answer because I think that's really important. So absolutely.
Yes, I agree. And thank you again so much. Thank you to you and your husband, for being so open and sharing that journey. I think, this is the kind of stuff that social media is meant for, to me.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like, I
absolutely.
love the connecting with family and friends and watching silly stuff and all that, but it's the getting to chance to connect with people on a different level, learn something, save lives. That's what it's about for me. And so I
Yeah,
thank you so much for taking that journey, sharing that journey, and then again coming here to the Fresh Perspective and talking to my viewers. I really do appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you. You guys have a beautiful night, y'all.
Thank you. We will see you again soon.
Yes, we will. Mwah.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. All right. All right, everybody. I think that was a great interview. I learned so much. Her and I clicked so well, from the moment that I asked her to do this. She was 110% on board, and she was an open book. I mean, she was willing to share all of everything. And so I'm super grateful to her for that. You guys make sure you check out her website, which is scrolling across the bottom of the screen, apyoungblog.com. I'm going to also put up her Instagram. You can follow her on Instagram at APY blog. Okay, you guys. So hopefully I got some good information. Did y'all get good information? Did y'all enjoy that? You know what, Jen? You are just too funny. It's like, my lady Prince has a cute button nose. You know how much I got to contour that button nose, girl. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, you guys, thank y'all so much for showing up. It was really important to me to do this episode. And so we're going to be moving into February. So I'm going to look up what some of the February awarenesses are. And I think I'm going to read off a few of them to you guys. And I want you guys to tell me what type of episodes you'd like to see. Like, what do you want me to discuss as far as awarenesses for February? So let's see. We of course we know that February is Black History Month, so we definitely gotta talk about some things, and as it pertains to Black history. So in February we have American Heart Month, we have National Cancer Prevention Month, we have Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week, which is from February 7th through the 14th. We have World Cancer Day, February 4th, National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, and February 7th. Now I know it got to be more awarenesses than that. Let's see. It has to be more than that. And there's usually several of them, and so many of them that we've never heard of. So I try to highlight the ones that we don't talk a lot about. Let's see. We already mentioned American Heart Month, Library Lovers Month, Senior Independence Month. So I'm assuming they're talking about senior citizens. Children's Dental Health Month, National Time Management Month. Some of y'all could probably learn a little bit about that. It's not a whole lot in February. So I guess we got to kind of figure out what we want to talk about. Let's see. Did you guys put anything in the chat? Nope. All right. Well, I guess we'll figure out what we want to talk about for the month of November. I mean, the month of February. We definitely will be highlighting a lot of things Black in February. That's also Fresh Breezy's birth month. Unfortunately, those Pisces coming back round. Here they come. Not doing nothing super special. He got all the bells and whistles last year. I'm still recovering from that. So, I want to do something for him, though. I don't know if we'll take a quick little trip for the weekend, or, just send him somewhere for the weekend. Let him get a little break from his family. He'd be needing a break from us. So maybe I'll send him somewhere so he can get some relaxation on. So at the beginning of the show, I actually had these slides that had some information on it for you guys. I didn't get a chance to play it because thank you to BDB for pointing out that there was no audio. So there were some issues with the audio at the beginning. So I kind of just went ahead and bypassed all the other stuff I had planned and went ahead and got the show started. But as we exit the show, I wanted to let those slides play just so you can see just some of the information that she's already covered, and just some other things and resources that you may be able to find that'll give you more information on thyroid disease, thyroid awareness, thyroid cancer. all different things. And I think we learned a lot today. And I thank our guests for coming in and talking to us tonight. So I'm not quite sure when my next episode going to be. It's probably going to be next weekend unless we do a Freshes. Breezy, we going to do a Freshes this week? You want to do a Freshes this week? I don't know. I have to work all week. My best friend's coming to town, so I don't know. I don't know what that's going to be like. Maybe Thursday. I don't know. We'll see. We're doing a lot of driving this week. What is he saying? Fresh Breezy, the real executive producer, should have let you know. What? I know, right? He probably wasn't listening. He wasn't checking for me. He don't be checking for me, man. I have to go ask him, do you hear my music? But it's crazy because I just did a sound check before that, like literally 10 minutes before, and everything was fine. So I don't really know why it wasn't playing. And I had some good music picked out too. I don't know what happened, but it's all good. Who's baby shower? The one I'm going to? They having a boy. That baby shower gonna be interesting. I can't wait. I'm gonna take mad pictures and videos so I can bring it back for y'all. Let's see. All right, I am going to let this slide play and you guys can read it on your way out. Please make sure you hit the like button. I want to be able to bring more content that you guys like. So if you enjoyed this live stream, one, I appreciate it. And two, I would appreciate if you would hit that like button. Be sure to send me any of your show ideas, or if you have anything that, I don't know, you might want to see on the show. There's the email, thefreshperspective22@gmail.com. Don't hesitate to send me whatever you want to send me. If you have questions for me or questions for Fresh, for one of our Fresh's episode, don't hesitate to hit the email. You also can follow me on IG and TikTok at @Iam_LadyFresh. Let's see. Cash App, hashtag #IamLadyFresh. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys soon. Again, thank you to the chat. Thank you to AP Young for tuning in. And yeah, you guys, thank you. I'm going to put this video up for y'all. Let me take some of these banners and stuff down so y'all be able to see. All right, you guys, have a good night. Let me start it over for y'all.
Your dreams come true. From the rack, where your token get a tag. All I know is just finesse. I had to stack to get the bag. I'm just counting all these hundreds. Fuck, I look like going to rag. You would think I'm playing with meth, cause all my niggas breaking bad, but I'm the fucking breadwinner. Class eat this chicken dinner. Hit the block and leave him froze like he died in the winter. Even in the summer, my heart colder than December. Gotta keep my circle small. Hell no, I ain't looking for new members. My first 300K, I bet I bulletproof the windows. I got the back extendos. These bitches like crescendo. So my life is like Nintendo shit. I'm trying to live until I'm 64. Invest the profits, watch it go. Call my blicky Aerosmith and make a body rock and roll. Ain't no rapper on my level. If it is, we'll grab a shovel. Just a demon fighting devils. All my life I was a rebel. I was the one that's causing trouble. They gon' stab you in the back. Swear it be the ones that love you. Who you trust? Niggas flows collecting dust. Yeah, we all gotta die, but niggas out here trying to rush. You know it's free to get your touch. This Messiah in the clutch. It don't get featured. Ain't no fuss. Nah, but sometimes I sit back and I wonder if you know why. They don't know. You don't know how I feel, man. And I wonder if you know how I. Hey, let's get it. From the rack, where your token get a tag. All I know is just finesse. I had to stack to get the bag. I'm just counting all these hundreds. Fuck, I look like going to rag. You would think I'm playing with meth, cause all my niggas breaking bad, but I'm the fucking breadwinner. Class eat this chicken dinner. Hit the I can leave him froze like he died in the winter. Sometimes I wanna go back to being a kid, like, why so hard to live? Why so hard to love? Why so hard to give? I'm black, you shoot to kill. I'm black, I rob and steal. That's the mess you spread. That's the picture you paint, like, why so hard to think? But that just know when you call. It's not. It's not. I'ma let this beat cry. I'ma let this beat cry. I got a heart, even if the decisions I make ain't smart. Foot on the gas, I don't do parking. I manage to turn my voice into art. That's why you wanna kill me, right? Dreads hanging, scary sight. They think you jam, you paying the prices. Know the stake won't play with your night, but when you call, I gotta go. Remember the nights I had to sleep on the floor. Now I gotta think about putting on shoulders. Mother, she wrote you, give it to her. All this killing you slow. They know I'm the truth. They trying to get close. I'm not too friendly. They don't understand me. I need a Grammy. Please heal my granny. Protect my family. They don't understand me. I need a Grammy. Please heal my granny. Protect my family. I got a heart, even if the decisions I make ain't smart. Foot on the gas, I don't do parking. I manage to turn my voice into art. That's why you wanna kill me, right? Dreads hanging, scary sight. They think you jam, you paying the prices. Know the stake won't play with your night, but when you call.